Disclaimer. The following content is entirely fictional and does not represent real events or people. This material has been edited and adapted from the channel beyond the page. Ugh, I'm so tired. Don't wake me up. I'm taking my power nap, Lisa said, dropping her head onto the table. I giggled. How many power naps do you take in an hour, Lisa? She lifted her head and smiled sheepishly. If my brain has to work hard, then as many as I need. Come on, Lisa. This is our last assignment for the semester. After this, holidays, I sang, my heart filled with excitement. Someone's excited for her birthday. Or should I say, for her mate, Lisa teased. I patted my cheeks, trying to hide the blush. It's not like that, I argued. Sure, whatever you say, Elly, Lisa replied, wiggling her eyebrows. We both started laughing at the same time. So, our future pack doctor, I heard you're not moving into the pack house after your birthday. Is that true? Lisa asked. I nodded. Yes, it's true. I'm getting ready for medical college, so my mom wants to keep me close to help me study. And I prefer it that way too, I explained with a smile. And Alpha Anderson gave you permission. Yes, he did, he said, and I quote, anything to help our future doctor. Wow. The perks of having a doctor for a mom and a super brain to ace any subject. Even an alpha bends the rules for you, Lisa huffed. You know I work hard, I pointed out. I totally agree, she said, raising her hands as if surrendering. But the pack house is fun, and your brother is there too, she added after a moment. And the Bella twins are there too, I reminded her. Plus, the pack house is the last place I want to be. I don't like being around those high-ranking officers in training, I said, feeling a bitter taste in my mouth just talking about them. I couldn't imagine facing them every day. I understand. And I'm sorry if I brought up unpleasant memories, Lisa said, squeezing my hand. It's all right, honey. It's all in the past now. And they stopped bothering me anyway, I said, patting her back. Speak of the devils, and there they come, Lisa said, looking toward the front. I lifted my head and looked in the same direction to see them standing at the entrance of the hall. The popular kids, the next in line for high-ranking positions, the most praised people of our generation, and, well, idiots. That's how much I disliked them. Unfortunately, my brother Roy was with them, along with his mate, Claire. I didn't dislike them. I loved them a lot. Claire had the sweetest and most loving personality of the whole group. My brother and I both have brown hair and green eyes, and he's set to become the head of the Warriors after our father retires. So, it was natural for him to hang out with the other future leaders. Then there was our future Beta, Ian Thomas, and our future Alpha, Drake Anderson, with a few other Warriors, including Mike and Lucas. And of course the Bella twins, Annabella and Isabella, who are our cousins. They have brown hair like us but with blue eyes, and they're identical. They haven't found their mates yet, and may the goddess bless whoever their mates turn out to be. Lastly, there was Bianca, a beautiful but not so bright warrior. I looked away, not wanting to get their attention, but it was too late. Roy noticed me. Sis! He shouted across the hall, drawing the attention of other students. I mentally face-palmed but managed a smile and a wave. Your brother and his little sister, Lisa chuckled. Not little. We're just 1 year apart, I corrected her. Hey, he said, walking toward us with Claire right behind him, and the others following. I scrunched up my face when I saw the rest of them coming our way, but quickly made my expression neutral as they reached our table. Hey, what's up? I asked. We gave a slight bow to our future Alpha, and he nodded back in acknowledgement. His thick black hair fell onto his forehead as he nodded, and he pushed it back effortlessly. His brown eyes stared into mine, and his sharp jaw tensed, as if he was trying to read my thoughts. But I looked away, focusing on Roy and ignoring the rest. We have a group project to do, Roy said, looking around. And there aren't enough seats for all of us to sit together. Them too? Lisa asked, pointing at the 3 girls who were our age, the Bella twins and Bianca. The others were seniors, the same age as my brother and Claire. No, we have a group assignment, one of the twins snapped. Looks like you've almost finished yours, Bianca said, trying to peek at our work. But Lisa quickly closed the book. Sharing is caring. Why don't you help us, cousin? The other twin chimed in. She would have if you didn't. Lisa! I shouted, standing up suddenly to stop her from finishing that sentence. I didn't want to be reminded of old hurts, especially in front of the very people who had caused them. We're leaving. You can sit here, Roy. I said that as I grabbed my things and pulled Lisa along behind me. Wow, she really does hold grudges, I heard one of the boys say. I couldn't have cared less. Later, on the phone, Lisa's sad voice came through. I'm sorry again. I shouldn't have brought it up. For the 10th time, Lisa, it's all right. I forgive you. But please don't bring it up again. It's all in the past, I replied with a deep sigh. I have to go. I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, bye, she said before hanging up. I tossed my phone on the bed and stared at the ceiling, lost in my thoughts. It had been 2 years, but the memory still stung as if it had happened just a few days ago. I was foolish back then. But who could blame a 15-year-old for having a crush on her future alpha? It was that age. Everyone had a crush on someone. And just like any other girl, I had a crush on Drake, our future alpha. But I never tried to express my feelings like most girls did. I didn't even think about it. It was just an innocent crush that Lisa and I talked about together. But it turned into my worst nightmare. And the crush ended right then and there. I still can't believe I agreed to give Drake a present for his 16th birthday. It was Lisa's idea. I bought a leather journal with a wolf engraving on it, while Lisa bought him a bracelet. We made cards, but with no hearts on them. We simply wished him a happy birthday, and that was all. We just wanted to give him the gifts as friends, not as girls who had a crush on him. We believed some crushes were meant to be kept to yourself. As fate would have it, I had to face my embarrassing moment alone because Lisa couldn't come to school that day. She called in the morning, sad that she couldn't give him her present on his birthday. I don't remember her reason, but I remember telling her to give it to him the next day. I wish I had waited for her and given him my present with her, but that wasn't what fate had planned for me. Sure, I was nervous, but I wasn't worried about what he'd think since I was giving him the gift as a friend. During lunch, I went up to him where he was sitting with my brother and the others, and of course the Bella twins and Bianca were there too. Drake, I said his name. Happy birthday, I wished him, handing him my present. That was it. I was about to turn and walk away when Bianca snatched the card from his hand to read it. I wasn't worried until she read it out loud, so everyone in the cafeteria could hear it. Happy birthday, Drake, she read. I have been in love with you for years, but am confessing it now. I hope you will love me so I can become your Luna. Please love me back. Your fated love, Elly, she finished. The moment she was done, the whole cafeteria erupted in laughter. It sounded pathetic, like I was begging for his love. I snatched the card from her, thinking she had made up those lines, but my eyes nearly popped out when I saw the words written inside the card. After my simple happy birthday, someone else had written all of that. I stood there, shocked, before I could speak. I didn't write these, I told them, including Roy, who was sitting there looking shocked by my sudden love confession for Drake. Tears filled my eyes out of anger and shame. So, are you saying you never liked Drake? Has your crush, isn't he? Bianca asked. It was true that I liked him, but I never thought about being anything more than his friend. Not like Bianca, the Luna wannabe, as we called her. It's true, I like him, but... The cafeteria roared with laughter for a second time. Then Drake spoke up. You're pathetic. You're too weak to be a warrior, let alone a Luna, he sneered. That hit a very sensitive spot, and tears fell freely from my eyes. You never, ever tell a warrior's child that she is weak. It's a shame to her and her family. Roy immediately stood up for me and took me away from there. I cried on his shoulder while he comforted me until I calmed down. The teasing went on for weeks, and I refused to go to school. It didn't stop until my mom and dad had a talk with our alpha. He found out what really happened and made sure everyone knew the truth. It was the twins who wrote those words in my card when I wasn't looking. They told Bianca and some other boys and then waited for me to show up. They came and apologized to me, as ordered by Alpha Anderson. He brought Drake separately and made him apologize for his mean words. I forgave them, but I never forgot what they did to me. I stayed as far away from them as I could and only spoke to them when it was absolutely necessary. I dedicated my time to training as much as I did to my studies, maybe a little less than my studies, but I refused to train with the others and needed a flexible schedule because of the competitions and practicals I was in. So, in the end, with the Alpha's permission, my dad decided to train me himself, and only a few people knew about it. So, after all that happened, everything went smoothly for me, and I couldn't have been happier. I breathed in the fresh air as I stepped into the school. It was the last day before the holidays began, and I loved holidays, especially because I get to spend more time in the lab with my mom, helping her with her experiments. As I walked further inside, I could feel happy vibes all around, but something else was in the air too. My curiosity got the better of me when I saw people whispering to each other in the hallway. I was eager to find Lisa, guessing she might know what all the fuss was about. I didn't have to look for long. A smile appeared on my face when I saw her coming my way, making her way through the crowd. Her face was red, like she was holding her breath, just dying to spill the gossip to me. "You won't believe what happened," Lisa panted. "Breathe, Lisa." "You're out of breath," I chuckled. "You won't believe it," she said. "Bianca found her mate last night during her birthday party." "What?" "Wow. Yes, but it wasn't Drake. It was a boy named Josh, and she rejected him right then and there." "What?" "Oh my gosh. To say I was stunned would be fair. Everyone knew Bianca wanted Drake as her mate, but since Drake never showed the slightest interest in her, I never thought she would reject her actual mate for him. How foolish. What would she do when Drake finds his own mate?" The day went by quickly, and the bell rang, signaling the end of school and the beginning of the holidays. Since it was a month long, most people had already planned their vacations. Lisa was going to visit her grandparents but promised to come back for my birthday, especially to see my wolf. I didn't have anything planned except spending my time in the lab, training with my dad, and visiting the new library in the city. The days went by peacefully. I was busy reading books, getting a few scrapes, and racking my brain to improve the success rate of a medicine my mom had created. I totally forgot about my birthday until Roy and Claire visited us with presents. They came the day before so they could witness my transformation when the clock struck midnight. Transforming into a wolf is an intense and difficult experience, but running in that form makes it all worth it. My wolf had brown fur and green eyes, and she was beautiful. Lisa was happy to see my wolf and asked me how I felt about mind-linking with others. To have voices talking about completely unnecessary things while you're focused on an experiment is pure torture. It took me a day or two to block them out completely. Since I didn't allow any private links, some boys used the pack link to ask if I would like to meet them to see if we were mates. I refused so many times, but they didn't stop until my lovely brother threatened to cause them some trouble. Once school started, I hoped I would find my mate soon. I knew most of the elders, including the alpha, wanted my mate to be someone from our pack. Winning competitions and academic awards made me the pride of the pack, just like my mom was when she was young. Our pack was proud to have a doctor like my mom, who had earned a name for herself by creating and discovering medicines to solve many of our wolves' problems. And they had high hopes for me too. That was why the alpha would agree to do anything to make my life comfortable. On the first day back at school, Roy filled my ears with advice and rules for what to do if I were to meet my mate at school. After agreeing to his every condition, he finally let me go, and I was thankful for that. I didn't want to ruin my mood by running into his friends so early in the morning. I couldn't focus in any of my classes because I was on an emotional roller coaster all day. I avoided the cafeteria on purpose, not wanting to meet my mate in front of everybody. At the end of the day, after we finished our track training, Lisa and I went into the changing room to get cleaned up. I was disappointed about not meeting my mate, but after running a few laps, I felt better. "Cheer up," Lisa said, applying some lipstick. "Are you going to meet that human boyfriend of yours?" I asked, watching her get all dolled up. "Yes," she winked. I sighed. Lisa had met this guy a few months ago, and they started going out right away. "What will happen when you find your mate?" "Your birthday is coming up," I asked. "Don't worry. I'll end it before my birthday," she said. "We just went on a few dates, that's it." "A couple of dates, and he bought you expensive gifts," I said, pointing to the perfumes in her bag. I couldn't say no. "These smell so good." Lisa grinned. "Here, this one's for you. I know you like this scent," she said, taking one out. "No thanks, you can keep it." "Come on." "Nope." Lisa smiled mischievously, and before I knew it, she had sprayed some on me. "Lisa!" I shouted. She giggled. "Here, you can keep it now. Think of it as another gift," she said, putting it in my bag before running away. I groaned and put the bag on my shoulder, ready to follow her out. But before I could leave, Drake barged in, and I stopped in my tracks, shocked. But the reason for my shock wasn't him. It was the word my wolf muttered in my head, "Mate." I paced up and down in my room, but I couldn't calm down. I was this close to finding my mate, but she disappeared as if she never existed. My wolf was restless this morning, and so was I. I knew something was up but couldn't figure it out. When I got to school, Roy was already there with Claire in the parking lot, waiting for the rest of us. He usually came before us since he drove Elly to school every day. Elly. I didn't think her name would get stuck in my mind forever. After what had happened 2 years ago, I couldn't get her out of my head. I was at fault, and I still regret what I said. But at that time, I had had enough of girls throwing themselves at me. They got especially crazy on my birthday, trying to win my heart with expensive gifts and love confessions. That's why I mistook Elly for just another one of them. What bothered me the most was what she said after I apologized. It's true that I liked you, but you don't need to worry about me again, because I don't like you anymore. It felt like my heart had been pierced. After that, I tried to talk to her again as a friend, but she ignored me and avoided most of us. Sometimes I would unconsciously look for her in a crowd, but I hardly ever saw her at school since she stayed away from us on purpose. I still have her gift, still in its box. I couldn't throw it away, and it felt too precious to use. I have to admit, I was kind of happy when her 17th birthday came around because she was supposed to move into the pack house with us. I knew a lot of boys were looking forward to it, but everyone was surprised to hear that she wasn't moving in. My father, the alpha of the pack, agreed with her mom to let her stay with her parents. I knew my father was very proud of her, just like most of the elders were, and he treated her like his own daughter, so it wasn't a surprise to see him agree to anything her mom requested. I kind of hoped Elly would be my mate. But I also knew I shouldn't have had any thoughts like that. Not after what happened. When I first smelled an intoxicating scent of roses in the parking lot, my hopes went up about finding my mate. I had waited for her for more than a year. The scent was faint, but my wolf said it was our mate's and told me to follow it. But by the time I entered the building, her scent had mixed with others, and I lost my chance. During the day, I was able to smell her scent here and there, but not being able to see her in person put me on edge all day long. After football practice, I went straight to the boys' changing room to get cleaned up. On my way there, I smelled her scent again. Without a second thought, I followed it and ended up near the girls' changing room. Her scent was strong there, and I took a deep breath as my heart started to beat loudly. I hesitated for a moment but went in anyway. I didn't want to lose her again. As I got inside, I noticed there were no other girls there except Elly. My heart skipped a beat, thinking she might be my mate. But I was disappointed. I couldn't smell my mate's scent on her. She smelled different. I wanted to ask her who had been there with her, but seeing her shocked face, I felt embarrassed. But I asked her anyway. Who was here with you? She didn't answer. I scratched the back of my head. She might still be in shock. Elly, I said a bit louder. She shook her head, snapping out of her daze. I'm sorry. What did you say, Alpha? She asked. Man, what are you doing here? That was Ian. I smelled her again, I told him briefly. I asked, who was here with you? I repeated my question to Elly. Lots of girls, Alpha. This is the changing room. Girls walk in and out all the time, she said. Ugh! How was I supposed to find her now? I left the room with Ian right behind me. Are you sure Elly isn't the one? He asked. Yes, it wasn't her. The guys tried to cheer me up, saying I would find her soon and that I shouldn't be worried. But days went by, and I couldn't find a single clue about her. I was getting impatient and was angry all the time. Everyone was walking on eggshells around me, but I couldn't help it. I was sure that if I could smell her scent, she could have smelled mine too. So why didn't she come to me? She's hiding. What? She might be hiding from you, Ian said. Why, I'm her mate, I shouted. That was nonsense. Maybe she doesn't want you as her mate. He shrugged. I growled and grabbed his collar, but Roy pushed me back. Well, find her. We'll help you find her, Roy promised. Yes, she might have her own reasons, but let's find her first, okay? Claire said, patting my back. So we spent the next few days looking for ways to find my mate. They argued she might be someone who turned 17 during the holidays, since I hadn't smelled her scent before then. So we managed to get a list, and that list included Elly too. I had to check on her again, but I really hoped I would find her this time. We have 3 packs attending our school, plus humans, so the list was nearly 30 names long. I rubbed my face. Was I really going to do this? Why was she making this so hard? Somehow, I checked them all within 3 days. None of them had my mate's scent, and I was disappointed. Ian said we had to check people who had visited the school that day too. So we got 5 people on that list, including a 60-year-old granny. My friends burst out laughing. Ugh, seriously. I checked on the other 4 but backed out of checking on a granny. She was the last person. and I definitely didn't want a granny as my mate. But the others pushed me toward her door and dragged me there, even though I was against it. My friends said they didn't want to hear any complaints from me later. Ian and Roy held me on either side, and I felt all the color drain from my face when they knocked on the door. When the granny appeared, I was so relieved and happy. She wasn't my mate, thank goodness. I didn't know where my mate was or what she was doing, but she was putting me through hell. My friends started to doubt whether I had actually smelled my mate's scent or not. To be honest, I started to have my own doubts, but my wolf insisted it was definitely her, so I just believed him. And with what happened next, my friends started to believe me too. It was a sunny day, and the air felt good. So we decided to spend our free period outside, just like other students. Most of them were busy with their schoolwork or just hanging out. I was taking a nap, or rather thinking about my mate, when my phone started ringing nonstop. I took it out, annoyed. It was an unknown number, so I ignored it without a second thought. But before I could put it away, a message came through. "Answer the call, Alpha. It's your mate." I sat up straight, shocked, which startled my friends. I quickly showed them the message before answering the call, so she knew I was her mate. "Hello," I said, eager to hear her voice. The others listened to our conversation with full attention. "Hello, Alpha," she said, but I could tell she was trying to disguise her voice. I felt disappointed and sad. "You're not even letting me hear your real voice." "Smart," she said. "I heard you went through a lot trying to find me. If you knew, why didn't you come forward? I'm your mate, after all," I said. "Well, that's the problem. I didn't expect you to be my mate," she sighed. "Why? Are you disappointed?" I asked, even though my heart ached with pain. "No," she replied quickly. I smiled. "It's just that we wouldn't go well together. I never wanted to be a Luna, so what do you want me to do?" "And how do you hide your scent?" "Well, I have my ways," she said, then went silent for a moment. "Reject me, Alpha." I was stunned for a moment. I hadn't even gotten to see her yet, and she already didn't want me. I gripped my phone tightly, pain and anger seeping through me. I was fighting with my wolf to keep it under control. I got up, trying to walk away from the crowd, just in case I couldn't control my wolf or myself. "Where are you going?" she asked. My eyes widened in realization. Was she watching us this whole time? I turned back and mind-linked Roy and Ian. "She's watching us." "Look for her." They were surprised to hear that, but nodded their heads. Without making it suspicious, they walked away. And I searched around, trying to figure out where she could be. "Keep talking to her," Roy mind-linked me. "Okay, let's meet first. I'll decide then," I told her. "No, reject me now." She was really pushing my buttons. "Give me your name." "I need to know your name to reject you," I said with a victorious smile. "Promise me in the name of the moon goddess. Then I'll give you my name, or I'll even come and meet you." That was it. "Baby, listen to me carefully," I growled. "If you're hiding, then do your best to hide from me. Because the moment I find you, I'm going to mark you and make you mine," I threatened. She was silent for a moment before she spoke up again. "You sent a search party for me?" Her amused voice came through the phone. "Shoot!" She found out I mind-linked the others. "I have to go now. Let's talk about this later," she said. And then she hung up. I walked toward the woods and changed into my wolf, ripping my clothes away in the process. We were both in pain and angry at the same time. We lost her again. Why was she doing this? She wasn't giving me any chance or a valid reason, but I was determined to find her and make her mine. And I knew that chance would come soon. After I calmed down, I went back to the pack house where the others were waiting for me. They all had sorry expressions on their faces, but I ignored them. I collapsed on the sofa in the living room, feeling mentally and physically exhausted. "Your mate is smart. She got away even before we could figure out where she was," Ian said. "She was confident that we wouldn't be able to find her," another guy said. "What if she's the same age as us? Then we missed her from the beginning." Roy groaned. "She's giving absurd reasons," Claire said. "But she's too confident and will make a mistake, and that's when we'll find out who your mate is." It had been a hellish 3 weeks since I found out Drake was my mate. At first, I couldn't understand why he hadn't recognized me as his mate, but after they had left the changing room, I sat on a bench, unable to move, too shocked to realize that my worst nightmare had come true. Doesn't the moon goddess know everything? That I never in a million years wanted to be his Luna? or that I never wanted to hang around or even have a simple conversation with those people Aluna is supposed to keep around. Ugh. Just thinking about it frustrated me. I thought harder about why he couldn't smell my scent. I couldn't find any reason until my eyes landed on the perfume bottle. Really? Did the perfume mess up my scent? So, did I really have a chance of not getting caught by him? If this was working, then I would avoid him until he graduated, which was less than a year away. Since I didn't live in the pack house and had no interaction with them, it would be easy to do that. After I graduated, I would apply to the furthest medical college from here, and I wouldn't come back. That was my plan until they tried to find me again. I thought he would give up and the others wouldn't care, but I was wrong. When Roy visited during the weekends, he had a lot to say. I didn't know they had checked on me for a second time, and I cursed myself for not being careful. But I used perfumes every day and even bought some more. I kept a bottle everywhere I needed one, in my locker, in my school bag, and I sprayed them on my clothes and on everything I used. I knew I was being obsessive, but I had to do everything I could to not get caught. I didn't tell anyone, not even Lisa, who had started to make fun of me for using so much perfume. But I didn't care, since she had helped me in the first place without even knowing it. I really felt sorry for Drake for having to visit a granny, but it was kind of hilarious too. It started to get on my nerves when students began talking about the alpha's mysterious mate. They had different theories as to why I was hiding from my mate. Some people said I might be a weak, unattractive wolf who didn't have any confidence in herself. Well, actually, Bianca started that rumor. Others said I might have a boyfriend and didn't want to tell Drake about it, fearing he might harm my lover. Huh, a good plot for a drama. If they found out that I was his mate, everyone would be shocked, since they knew what had happened between Drake and me 2 years ago. But I wanted to stop all of this and carry on with my life. That was why I called him that day, to end this once and for all. I was in the laboratory that day, which was on the 2nd floor. I had promised our teacher I would help her organize chemicals and new equipment. The laboratory had a good view of the outside. Since the weather was nice, a lot of students were hanging out in nature. After giving me instructions on what to do, the teacher went to the office to hand over some documents. I knew it would take her nearly 30 minutes to come back. Earlier, when I was looking outside, I had spotted Drake, Roy, and the others, so that was the perfect opportunity if I wanted to call him. I used a dual SIM phone. One SIM was for family and friends, and the other was used for hospital staff. I had a Certificate 3 in basic health care, which my mom made me get so I could experience hospital duties early on. I was a staff member, and they called me when they needed me, especially my mom if she had something to show me. But after I was able to mind link, we stopped using that number. I expected I would have to call him, so I had bought a new SIM beforehand. All I had to do was activate the SIM when needed. Everything was going fine until I angered him. His voice did strange things to my body, and a shiver ran down my spine when he called me baby. I guessed it was the mate bond acting up. I was surprised to hear him say he wouldn't give up on me, even though he had no idea who I was. I was nervous for a second, but I knew he wouldn't be able to find me. I was so lost in my thoughts that I didn't see Roy and another guy until they came near the building I was in. They entered quickly, and I knew they had come here to look for me. I ended the call, and the teacher came back right on time, just when I needed her. Roy passed by the laboratory and waved at me. I held back my laughter. I was with our teacher, so he didn't suspect me. I saw Drake a few times after that day. He looked calm and peaceful, but I knew he was battling emotional storms inside. I felt guilty for doing that to him, but there was no way I could be his or this pack's Luna. If he wasn't an alpha, I would have rejected him a long time ago. Only an alpha can reject another alpha, another stupid law made by the council to keep an alpha's ego intact. So, I had to wait until he decided to reject me. I never thought I would make any mistakes, since I had been very careful all the time. But we all tend to make mistakes, and I shouldn't have been so confident. It was the weekend, and I was at the laboratory doing my usual stuff. The lab was built on the hospital grounds in a separate building, just as my mom had requested. So it was supposed to be a normal, peaceful day, but the unexpected happened. The head nurse mind-linked the hospital staff, sending an emergency message. Rogues have attacked our pack warriors who were training our boys. They suspect the rogues had wolfsbane on them. It wasn't a surprise to hear that. Rogues these days used wolfsbane to weaken their enemies. It wasn't harmful unless you get it inside your body. Since the substance slowed down the healing process, if you got a deep cut with wolfsbane, it had to be stitched and would take days to heal. That was why my mom created a medicine to speed up the healing process, and she reduced the time to just a few hours. After that, I started to work on it and got its success rate up to 98%, and you would be able to heal without stitches. Even though the clinical tests were successful and had no side effects, I wanted to reduce the time it took to heal even more. I ran out of the building and was on my way to the hospital when Ian, our future beta, sent out a message. He said, "Alpha Drake is in grave danger. He needs his mate by his side to save him. Only our Luna can come to the hospital. Others, do not visit. That's an order." I froze on the spot, and my heart ached with pain. He was in danger. I ran toward the building and entered it. But just as I was about to run to the wards to go to him, I stopped in my tracks. What did he say? I repeated his words in my head again. He was in danger, and they needed me by his side to save him. I snickered. Really? Did they just try to pull a prank on me? I have to admit, they were half successful. But I was studying to be a doctor. Unfortunately, nobody could save a wolf in that condition. Not even his mate. If there was a doctor with them, he would have corrected them, and Alpha Anderson would have been the one to send the message. That meant they were okay. At least Ian should have sent the message saying he needed to see me. Then they would have won this game already. But I was smarter than them. "Mom, where's Dad? And Roy? Are they okay?" I mind-linked her. "Yes, honey, they're okay. Don't worry. Roy is in the ward with the other boys, and I'm taking care of your father," she answered. "Okay," I said. I walked into the emergency room where others were being treated. There were no serious injuries, but there were at least 10 adult warriors. They were so busy, and I stood on the side, watching them. I wanted to check on Drake and see how he was doing, but I couldn't walk in without making them suspect me, since they were actually waiting for me, his mate. "Oh, honey, there you are?" That was the head nurse. "Could you please go and take care of the boys in the other ward? We are so busy here. They only have a few scratches, but someone needs to treat them." "I'll give you a girl to help you," she said. "Yes, of course," I smiled. Why would I miss this chance to see their defeated faces? A girl followed me to the ward and said she would just help me since she didn't have any experience. I didn't mind. Usually, I treated children and some adults with minor injuries, so this was my first time treating our pack's young men too. My heart started to beat so loudly, and I took deep breaths to calm it down. What would their first impressions be? I entered the ward with the girl following behind me. There were 10 boys there, including Roy, Ian, and Drake, and Claire was there too. They all had very shocked expressions on their faces, but Claire was the first one to break the silence. "Elly, what are you doing here? Are you—" "No," I said, waving my hand. "I'm here to treat them," I said, gesturing for the girl to put the medical supplies on a nearby bed. I put on my gloves. "Roy, you're first," I said. "Wow, sis. You look like a real doctor." Roy smiled with a proud look on his face. I looked at myself in my white lab coat and smiled back. "I will be, Roy, in a few years," I said. I saw how the others looked at me, or rather, watched me, as I treated them, since this was their first time seeing me like this. But I couldn't read Drake's emotions. Was it affection, hurt, or disappointment? I couldn't figure it out. Because of the wolfsbane, none of them had healed properly, except for Drake. It looked like a small amount of wolfsbane couldn't harm his alpha constitution, but that wasn't the case for the others. I had to clean the wolfsbane from their skin, even though it was just a little. "I thought you disliked us, Lucas," one of Drake's friends said. "Well, I can't choose my patients, can I?" I replied. I finished my treatments and was about to leave when they brought a boy into the ward. He had a deep cut on his side. They should have taken him to the operating room, not here. He was the first one to get attacked, but they just found him now, my mom said as she walked in with our alpha, beta, and my dad. "Mom, what are you doing?" "You have to operate on him," I said in disbelief. We bowed to our alpha and the other elders as they made their way to the bed where the boy was lying. Everyone gathered around him, including the boys who were already there. What was my mom thinking? And why were the alpha and beta so interested in this boy? As the elders gathered around his bed, we were all curious to see why they had come to see the boy. My mom checked him and took out a small bottle from her pocket. It had a red liquid in it. Was it? "Mom!" I shouted, startling the others. "Are you going to use it on him?" "But it's not. You saw it was a success, honey," my mom smiled. "Alpha, you can witness this with your own eyes," she said. "Would you like to come and help?" Since you worked so hard on it? She asked, looking at me. Elly helped you with this? The Alpha asked, surprised. Yes. When I first created this, it took 10 hours to fully heal. Normally, this kind of wound takes 3 days to heal, and we have to stitch it too, my mom explained. And now? The Alpha questioned. Now it takes only 30 minutes without stitching, and Elly made that happen, my mom said with a proud smile. Wow, I heard someone say that. When she explained it like that, I felt proud of my achievement too. The Alpha patted my back, and I smiled. The boy was already unconscious. He had lost a lot of fluids, but after this, he would be all right. I put on my gloves and a surgical mask to assist my mom while the others watched us curiously. We removed the wolfsbane first and then applied the medicine to the wound. It took exactly 5 minutes to heal the first layer of skin. It was successful. No more stitching. The Alpha congratulated us while the others cheered. It took exactly 30 minutes for his wound to heal completely. My mom and dad looked at me proudly. I'm going to mention your name this time. Your hard work must be acknowledged, my mom said, smiling. We're proud of you, honey. My dad had tears in his eyes. My mom was going to write her name in the medical history books again, and this time, my name would be mentioned too. I felt like I was on top of the world. This was what I was meant to do. I'm really worried about her mate now. I don't want you to leave our pack. I would do anything to keep you here, Elly. You don't know how much I've bragged about our future doctor in the Alpha meetings, Alpha Anderson said, making me blush. Yes, most packs want to be our allies just because of our doctor here, Beta Thomas said, gesturing toward my mom. And we were lucky she found her mate within this pack. We hope you will do the same. Or have you found him already? My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't lie to a beta. I was overcome with fear, and my eyes darted toward Drake for a second. His eyes were fixed on me, waiting for my answer. I opened my mouth to say the word, but I was saved by my dad. Leave her alone, Thomas, my dad said to our beta. I want my little girl to stay with me as long as she can, before her mate comes and snatches her away from me. Aw, Dad, that's why I love you so much. But would he be happy if he knew my mate was Drake? I knew our Alpha would be overjoyed. I volunteered to stay by the boy's side to watch his progress. He was still unconscious, but his skin didn't look pale anymore. They separated his bed by covering it with curtains, and I stayed inside. Looks like she didn't take our bait, I heard Ian say. I peeped through the curtains. Drake was still here with his friends. The others were gone. I had forgotten about them with everything that had happened earlier. It was time to have a little fun. I activated my sim. My phone started to fill up with missed calls and messages from Drake, Roy, and another unknown number, which might have been Ian's. Good thing it was in silent mode. I started to type a message. Alpha, I never thought you would pull a prank on me. I'm glad I didn't fall for it, I texted, then sent it. Drake looked at his phone, read the message, and rubbed his face to cover his embarrassment. The others read it too, shock covering their faces. A chuckle escaped my mouth. Oops, I looked at the boy on the bed. His eyes were still closed. He was unconscious, so there was no need to worry about him. Drake was on the other end of the room, and I knew they hadn't heard me. I told you it was a stupid idea. Now look. I made a fool out of myself. Drake grumbled. She couldn't have known that without seeing you. Ask her, Roy said. Oh, Roy, you have no idea. I received a message. Did you come? Otherwise, how would you know? Ian should have said that you needed to see me, not the part about saving your life. No mate can save a wolf in that condition. If a doctor was there, you would have known. I'm smarter than you think, I replied, then sent it. Ugh, I told you that was stupid, Drake said, showing the message to the others. I chuckled, seeing Ian's defeated face. Wait, Claire spoke up. I peeped again. Tell me, you only used the pack link, right? She asked Ian. He nodded. And nobody contacted anyone else, right? She asked the others this time. I made the others swear. So, yes, Roy said. What was Claire up to? So that means Drake's mate couldn't have known anything unless Ian sent the message through the pack link, right? The others nodded their heads. I told you she would make a mistake, Claire said, clapping her hands and smiling. What mistake? Roy asked. Even without knowing it, she gave us an important clue, Claire said, looking at the others. She's definitely from our pack. Oh no. After a good cleanup, I got into bed to rest. It was a very eventful day, and I felt so tired, but my thoughts were all over the place. I was glad that nobody was seriously hurt today, except for Josh, who had severe injuries. He was the first one to see them and sent the message to us. Our elder warriors had warned us not to fight unless it was necessary, but we couldn't just watch them fight by themselves. They cried out when the wolfsbane affected them, but their injuries were not as serious as Josh's. We brought the wounded warriors to the hospital. Since I didn't see Josh, I sent 2 people out to search for him. They found him near the borders and brought him to the hospital right away. Even though I was desperate to find my mate, I shouldn't have agreed to Ian's idea. It only made me embarrassed in front of her, but we found an important clue anyway. When I saw Elly first, I was just as shocked as the others. But she was there to treat us. She was beautiful and looked so professional in that white coat. I felt happy and proud for a moment, but she wasn't mine. I couldn't understand why, but when I think about her being with her mate who is definitely not me, my heart aches with pain. It feels right when I imagine Elly with me, but she isn't my mate, and my so-called mate doesn't even want to see me. But I won't let her go. Not until she explains everything to me, because I'm sure her reasons are not the ones the rumors say. I felt happy seeing Elly's excited face when her mom asked her to help. She was exactly the younger version of her mom, brown hair in a ponytail, green eyes sparkling with excitement, a round face, and the white coat. As Ian said, it was like we were seeing the younger and older versions of the same person at the same time. We all knew she was bright, but seeing her like this and hearing about her achievements, we felt like she was on another level. If we could choose a Luna, I know my father would choose Elly. That's how much he loves her and is proud of her. I wondered why she didn't answer our beta's question about her mate. I wanted to know so badly whether she had found her mate or not. Even though Elly wasn't my mate, she has been on my mind these days, and I've been struggling to keep my sanity. I wanted to meet my mate so I could get rid of these feelings. Everything would be all right when I find my mate. Bianca came to the hospital crying, with the twins following her. I thought she had finally accepted her mate and was visiting because she cared for him. But no, I was wrong. She came to see me, and I had to remind her that Josh was just a few beds away. I wondered if Josh heard her. That foolish girl. I have no idea what went through her head when she rejected Josh. She believed I would be her second-chance mate. She was crazy. I knew she was happy when she heard about my mate hiding from me, and I knew she was the one who started the rumors. Anyway, we found an important clue. She is definitely from our pack. Remembering what Roy said last time, we planned to check every unmated she-wolf in our pack. She could be the same age as us, but I have no idea how I'm supposed to do that. Since she hides her scent, should I go for the sparks? But to check that, skin needs to touch. A simple handshake might be a good idea. Too many problems and no answers. I felt a headache coming on. I went for a run in the woods to clear my mind. I ran along the borders and met some of the border patrols. My father has tightened security, and he went outside the borders looking for the rogues' campsite. I ran toward the hospital to visit Josh. He had recovered completely and had woken up, but the doctor wanted him to stay overnight and run some tests. While I was running through the woods, I smelled her alluring rose scent again. She was here. I followed it quickly, but the wind shifted, making it harder to track her down. Disappointed, I went back to the pack house, and I forgot about Josh. I was surprised to see Ian, Roy, and Claire in my room, waiting for me. "Went for a run?" Claire asked. I plopped onto my bed and closed my eyes. "You were right, Claire. She is from our pack. I smelled her scent again in the woods," I said. "What?" the others shouted. "Help me, guys. I don't know what to do anymore. She's driving me crazy," I sighed. "We're going to check all the unmated she-wolves, aren't we?" Ian asked. "We are. But how?" Roy questioned. "I was thinking about a handshake," Ian answered. "This is the second time you've smelled her scent since that day," Claire said, thinking out loud. "And that was a month ago. She has been very careful." "Baby, you're thinking out loud," Roy chuckled. "Did you smell a human or a wolf?" Claire asked me suddenly. I thought hard. "A wolf. Okay then, I might have a better idea." She grinned. "Listen. Whatever she does to hide her scent, she can't do it in her wolf form. So we will all go for a run in our wolf forms on Monday." After a very hectic day, I sank into the bathtub. I celebrated my day of achievements by running in the woods in my wolf form. Even though I could hide my scent in my human form, I couldn't do it in my wolf form. Well, because my wolf doesn't know how to use perfume, and she can't exactly spray it all over her body with her paws. Ha ha. The first time I tried, I sprayed it on my face, which made my wolf angry. She couldn't smell anything for hours and refused to run like that, so I had to limit my transformations, and when I did run, it was only at night after everyone had gone to sleep. But today, I didn't have to worry. Our alpha had ordered everyone to stay inside, but I took that chance to run in the woods as much as I wanted. I knew Drake wouldn't come outside since he was exhausted, not only because of the attack but also because of Bianca. I had a good laugh seeing how embarrassed Drake was with Bianca weeping and wailing. Actually, I didn't like the scene that played out in front of me. I felt angry and jealous for a moment before I understood it was the mate bond acting up. And his scent, which smelled like cedarwood mixed with clary sage, didn't help either. The smell was intoxicating, and it made me unsteady on my feet a few times, but I managed to stay put somehow. That was one of the reasons I never wanted to go near him. I was afraid I would do something foolish. I didn't recognize Josh as Bianca's mate until Drake told her about him. She didn't come to see him but stayed silent after that. I knew Josh heard her because he had a pained expression on his face. He recovered completely, but my mom asked him to stay to run some tests. I wondered if he had heard me or not. I wasn't sure, but he woke up after I had settled down in my chair. I couldn't believe I was so stupid. I just gave myself away. I was curious to know what their plans would be, but Bianca destroyed my chance. I knew I wouldn't be able to do this any longer, so I was planning to call Drake one more time. On Monday morning, when I entered the school, I saw others looking at me and whispering to each other about something. Did they find out? I was nervous and hesitated to open the mind link to listen to them, but I did it anyway. When I unblocked my mind, I was flooded with congratulations, and everybody told me they were proud of my achievements. Oh, it was about the medicine. The news had already spread, and I thanked them back. When Lisa saw me, she hugged me tightly, squeezing the life out of me. She asked me to tell her all about that day, even though she had heard it from others. My day went on like that, with teachers and students wishing me well and asking me to pass messages on to my mom. I was kind of tired but happy. I entered the less crowded library and searched for the books I needed. I took a deep breath, smelling the new books, and walked through the aisles. It was relaxing and felt like home. I was reading a book near an aisle when someone spoke behind me. "I never thought our Luna would have both beauty and brains," the voice said. I froze on the spot, frightened, and my heart began to beat faster. A wave of dizziness washed over me, and I clutched the bookshelf for support. Hey, are you okay? I'm sorry if I scared you." Here, he bent down and picked up the book that had fallen from my hands. He stood in front of me, handing me my book. I didn't want to look, but I met his eyes anyway. "You?" I shouted in surprise. "Shh. We're in the library," he whispered. You saw me that day," I yelled. "But you pretended like you were sleeping," I said, looking around. Nobody was there except us. "Josh, right? What do you want?" I asked angrily. I couldn't believe he had fooled me that day. "Calm down, Elly," he said. "Yes, I saw and heard everything, but I didn't want to scare you. That's why I stayed like that," he said, scratching the back of his head. "And why do you think I want something from you?" "I'm not an idiot, Josh," I snapped. "If you didn't, you wouldn't have come and talked to me. You are smart indeed," he muttered. "Be my girlfriend." "What? A fake girlfriend?" "But, let me explain," he sighed. "I want to make Bianca regret rejecting me," he said, looking off into the distance, trying to control his emotions. "I haven't accepted her rejection yet, but being the foolish girl she is, she thinks it's done. Be my second chance mate and get Drake off your back. It's a win-win for both of us." "What do you say?" he asked. I took a moment to think about it. It wasn't a bad idea, but what if Drake finds out? And what do you really want out of this? I questioned. "As for Drake, you can save me from him," he grinned, and I rolled my eyes. "What I really want, I want her back." "What?" "Yes," he smiled sadly. "I love her, Elly, a lot. She is my mate. What if I refuse? Are you going to tell Drake?" "No! You helped me recover quickly. I'm grateful for that." "Okay then. Let me think about it." After Josh left, I replayed our conversation in my mind. Was it a good idea? The idea of a second chance mate could work. I heard they were looking for unmated wolves, and they weren't excluding girls who already had boyfriends. I guess they believed the rumor about my non-existent boyfriend. Whatever I was going to do, I needed to do it quickly. I had to call Drake today. I put on my old gray hoodie and a mask and went behind the school. so no one would see me or find me like last time. This way, I could get away without them knowing who I was. I activated my sim and dialed his number. "Hello, what a surprise. I thought you had already forgotten your mate," Drake teased. I felt my cheeks get warm. I cleared my throat. "Of course not," I said. "How can I forget you? You're trying so hard to find me. You even pulled that silly prank," I said, holding back a laugh. I could just imagine his face getting red with embarrassment. "Is this some kind of a joke to you? Do you think I'm funny?" he growled. I tensed up, feeling his anger. "No," I stuttered. "I'm sorry." I heard a deep sigh. "Just come to me, baby, okay? Whoever you are, I don't mind. I will love you no matter what," he pleaded. I whimpered when I heard his voice. My mind told me to run to him, but I shook the feeling off. Our relationship would have been perfect if nothing had happened 2 years ago. I didn't want to be made fun of again, with everyone mocking me as the weak wolf who wanted to be their Luna, something I never even wanted. The memories of my past came back, and my heart ached with pain. All my efforts and hard work would be gone the moment everyone found out I was Drake's mate. They wouldn't care that I was the pride of the pack. They would only remember the past and the weak, crying girl who embarrassed herself in front of everyone. No, I wouldn't let that happen. It's just the mate bond, Drake. You don't need me, and you won't love me. If it wasn't for the mate bond, you wouldn't even care about me. So please, reject me," I stated. "No," he roared. "Mate bond or not, I don't care. I've waited for you all my life so I can have a beautiful family like my parents. I've never even had a girlfriend. Since you're from my pack, you must know that's true," he finished. I could see there was no way out. He wouldn't reject me or stop looking for me, and I wouldn't let him get close to me after he hurt me in the past. I was about to reply when I heard voices. I quickly turned to face the wall, hiding my face. "Mike!" someone shouted. "Where are you, man?" "Roy said he would come later," he said. I looked at the guy when I heard Roy's name. Oh no, it was Lucas, one of Drake's close friends. I hung up and started to walk away, trying not to draw attention. Why does Drake want to know where we are? That was Mike. I walked faster. I don't know. "Wait, has mind linking again," Lucas answered. "What? A girl?" I could feel their eyes on me. I started to run without looking back, and I heard them following me. I knew I couldn't outrun them since they were warriors, but maybe I could slow them down. I turned a corner, picked up some soil, and waited. When they turned the corner, I threw the soil in the first guy's face. He yelled and covered his eyes, and I used that chance to kick him in the stomach, making him fall. Mike tried to grab me, but then he started to fight me, throwing punches and kicks. I blocked them and threw some back. I wanted to end the fight quickly, and I saw Lucas was getting up. I didn't have much time. I fought with Mike a bit more before punching him hard in the face, making him lose his balance. I kicked his legs, and he fell to the ground with a loud thud. I ran towards Lucas and jumped on him, landing another punch on his face, and we both fell. Both of them were down. I got up and ran inside a nearby washroom, where I took off my gray hoodie and mask. It was hard to breathe and fight with the mask on, and I felt free after taking it off. I threw them in the bin and cleaned myself up. My bruises were already healing, and I felt good. I looked at myself in the mirror with a proud smile. I always trained with my dad, but that was my first real fight, and I felt good about it. When the bell rang, I walked to the library and grabbed my stuff. But before I could leave, our pack link opened. "Everyone must gather in the woods after school," Drake announced. What was he planning now? "Did you see Lucas and Mike today?" Lisa whispered. "No. Why?" I answered, guessing what she was about to say. "You should have seen them. They looked so bad," Lisa said, looking around before leaning in closer. "I heard they got into a fight with our future Luna when they tried to stop her from running away." My cheeks felt hot, and I looked away. "So?" "But they failed, and she beat them up instead," Lisa chuckled. "Mike had a broken nose, but the nurse fixed it. And Lucas," Lisa giggled again. "They said he never even got the chance to get up from the ground." I smiled with Lisa, not sure what to say. They turned the whole school upside down looking for a girl in a gray hoodie but found nothing, and she was wearing a mask. So they couldn't recognize her. She sighed. "I really wish I knew who it is. She seems so strong and smart." I rolled my eyes. Smart was okay, but strong? I wouldn't have done that if I was strong enough to face Drake or the others. And I felt guilty hearing Lisa talk about me. She was my best friend, and I trusted her completely, but I didn't want to put her in a difficult position with her alpha. It was better to keep her in the dark. I let out a deep sigh. What was Drake planning to do now? I already told Josh I couldn't help with his plans, because if Bianca decided to come back to him, I'd have to let him go. And then others would ask why I lied. I didn't want any more trouble. All day, I couldn't focus on anything, and I was so nervous when the last bell rang. I didn't want to go, but I couldn't miss it either. I must have thought of 100 reasons not to go, but I knew if I didn't, they would suspect me, and Drake wouldn't let it go. I took my time walking to the woods behind our school. There was a clearing near our pack borders where we were supposed to meet. When I got there, I saw the girls in the middle, with others standing around them. Most of them were unmated she-wolves. Oh no, what were they planning to do? I looked around carefully before showing myself. The girls had their backs to me, while Drake, Ian, and Roy stood in front of them, facing my direction, but they couldn't see me because they were on the other side of the clearing. I noticed Josh standing off to the side, chatting with his friends. I opened a private mind link. Josh. He looked around before talking back through the mind link. Where are you? He asked. Still on the other side of the clearing, behind the trees. He looked again, and I waved my hand. Oh, found you, he smirked. What's going on? I still can't figure out how you hide your scent from your mate, but can you do it in your wolf form too? He questioned. I felt like all the color drained from my face. No, this wasn't happening. I took a deep breath to calm myself down and stepped into the clearing, keeping my mind link with Josh open. The moment I stepped out, Drake's head turned in my direction, watching my every move. My heart beat faster, and my breathing became quick and short. Josh, let's do it. I quickened my pace towards him. His eyes widened. What are you talking about? He looked puzzled. Mate, I shouted through the mind link. I'll be your mate. By this time, I was running towards him like someone was chasing me, and I could feel everyone's eyes on me. What? Do you want to do it now? Josh stood alone, looking at me like I was crazy. Yes, catch me. Excuse me. Catch me. What? What the? With that, I jumped on him, and we both fell to the ground with a loud thud. I was on top of him, holding on to him for dear life. I buried my head in his chest, unable to move because I was breathing so hard and was so embarrassed. I didn't want to lift my head, knowing people had surrounded us. Josh had his arms around me tightly, just as he had put them out to catch me when we fell. Josh, I'm okay, he replied after a few seconds. He sat up straight with me on his lap. We were staring into each other's eyes, or rather, arguing through the mind link about what to do next, when Drake's voice boomed through the forest. Elly, what are you doing? His angry voice startled both of us, and our heads snapped in his direction. His eyes were black, and he was very upset. Mate. My second chance, mate, Josh and I said at the same time. I heard some gasps of surprise while others watched us curiously. Roy's mouth was hanging open in shock, and Drake and Bianca both had bitter expressions on their faces. We both got up from the ground as Bianca stormed off with the twins. Others congratulated us, but Drake said nothing. He was in pain, and I looked away, feeling guilty. But I was determined to end this torture soon. I let myself fall to the ground, with no energy left in my body. I lay on the floor, looking up at my white ceiling, trying to calm my uneven breathing. My eyes wandered for a second before they landed on a gift box that had fallen out of my broken side table. A tear escaped my eye, and I crawled towards it but didn't touch it. I sat up and leaned against the wall, staring at the box. Tears fell from my eyes as I remembered what happened in the clearing. What did I expect all this time? Even though I ignored it, I guess I had always hoped Elly would be my mate. I felt like someone had crushed my hopes and hurt my heart when they announced they were mates. I let out a shaky breath before wiping away my tears. After some time, someone knocked on the door, but I didn't bother to reply. I stayed silent on the floor, and they walked in, looking at the mess I had made in my room. Roy and Ian watched me silently, and I stared at the wall in front of me, not wanting to talk. Roy looked at the gift box near me, and then looked back at me. He shared a look with Ian and sighed deeply. He walked silently over to the windows and leaned against the wall. Ian closed the door and sat on my bed after clearing some space. We stayed silent until Ian spoke up. Are you okay? I glared at him. He sighed. Okay. Are you hurt anywhere? I didn't want to answer, but I said, no. He hummed in response, but said nothing else. Did you smell your mate? That was Roy. I growled in annoyance. I wanted to get away from everyone after what happened in the clearing. I tried to turn into my wolf and run, to sort out my feelings, but Roy and Ian wouldn't let me. They asked the unmated wolves to turn into their wolf forms and run, to see if I could smell my mate. But no, she wasn't there, or I couldn't smell her. I was desperate to leave that place, and after one look at Josh and Elly, I came running to my room. I couldn't remember exactly what happened, but I wanted to let out all my pain and frustration on something. So here I was, in my room that looked like a storm had hit it, with everything broken and torn apart. Did you or did you not find your mate? Roy asked again. I got up and growled, warning him, and Ian stood up too. Roy, he shouted. I'm not stupid, okay? Roy fumed. Do you think I didn't know that you liked my sister all this time? He asked, looking straight into my eyes. The way you look at her, or how disappointed you looked when she didn't move in, or when she found her mate, I noticed all of it. My eyes widened in surprise, but I looked away, not wanting to reply. You always searched for her in a crowd, and when you saw her, your face would light up like a stupid bulb. Ian chuckled but stopped when I glared at him. He coughed and cleared his throat. It's true, Drake. We all noticed, Ian said. I sighed, giving up. There was nothing to hide anymore, and it looked like they had figured everything out even though I hadn't told anyone. She found her mate, Drake, so focus on finding yours. I promise. You'll forget Elly the moment you find your mate. The bond can't be ignored, Roy said, trying to give me an encouraging smile, and I nodded. I hoped it was true. Ian didn't say anything because he was waiting for his mate too. Everyone in the pack house was scared. We all heard you, and they thought you would tear down the place. We explained that you were angry because of your mate, but I guess some didn't buy it, Ian said. I opened the mind link and apologized to everyone. I walked out and went into an empty room. I would have to stay here until they fixed mine. I wasn't sure how I would react when I saw the new couple. Since Josh lived here, she might have to move in with him. I hoped she wouldn't. I couldn't even imagine them together, so how could I see them here every day? I felt like tearing this room apart too. I should have gone for a run in the woods. At school, everyone talked about the new couple, and Bianca was having emotional breakdowns. She didn't show it, but I could see how broken she was when she saw them. She deserved it. One good thing that came out of it was that Bianca forgot about me. She left me alone to drown in her own sadness, and I appreciated that. I didn't have the energy to deal with her either. As for my mate, I would leave her alone for a few days because I needed some time for myself. It was hard to believe she had fought and escaped from our two warriors. Mike said she was a smart and skillful fighter. I should have known then that she couldn't be Elly, because Elly had never trained with anyone. But who knew I was wrong, and the truth was bound to come out in the end. I let out a sigh of relief. They all went for a run in their wolf forms, leaving Josh and me alone. Drake was so mad at us, and I was afraid he would do something out of anger. It was surprising to see how he reacted, even when he didn't know I was his mate. It might have been the pull between mates. So? I snapped out of my thoughts and looked at the guy beside me. I forgot he was there. So? I repeated his question. Josh was a handsome guy, with brown hair and gray eyes and a body well suited for a warrior, but he wasn't as muscular or handsome as Drake. I bit my lips. Did I just say Drake was handsome? Ugh, stupid mate bond. It'll drive you home. We can talk on the way. He gestured for me to follow him. And I nodded. On our way home, we talked about a lot of things, like how we should act in front of others and what we should say about not moving in together. I told him he should tell me right away when he wanted to end this fake drama, and I made him promise to keep my secret. Josh said he would drive me to school and drop me off, like a real mate would do, and I agreed. I felt guilty when Lisa called to congratulate us. She was so happy, and we talked about her upcoming birthday. The next day, Josh picked me up as promised and told me how Drake had destroyed his room. Everybody was afraid because their alpha was out of control. Was I being too selfish? Should I have accepted him? No, what was I thinking? I couldn't let history repeat itself, and it was too late to do anything now anyway. Josh coughed, getting my attention. Are you okay? He asked. I'm okay, I smiled. But I could tell he didn't believe me. So why? Why what? I looked at him. Why don't you want Drake as your mate? He questioned. I looked away and stayed silent. Is it because of what happened between you two? Josh, okay, I'm sorry, he said, focusing on the road. We stayed like that for a few minutes before he spoke again. You know, Elly, he glanced at me. It's hard, very hard, to stay away from your mate. Since he's an alpha, I can't imagine his pain. He don't know I'm his mate, I said angrily. Okay, geez, calm down, he said. I huffed, annoyed, but that made Josh laugh. Okay, now tell me your secret. How did you hide your scent from him? I took out my perfume bottle and shook it in front of him. This is my secret, I said. He looked surprised. Really? That thing can hide your scent? Wow, you're a genius. Not really. It can't actually hide my scent. This perfume is strong, and it covers up other smells for a few hours. If I stay too long without applying it again, Drake would be able to smell me, I explained. His mouth formed an O. So what about sparks and the pull? You can't hide them too, right? Or can you? He asked, his eyes wide. I laughed. You won't feel any sparks if you use wolfsbane regularly. Don't look at me like that. I don't do that. It's risky, I said, hitting his side playfully. He laughed too. Okay, then how? He asked. To feel sparks, skin has to touch, so I stay as far away as possible. Since I can smell his scent, I avoid him. And the pull, it won't affect you unless you get close to each other, I explained. Wow, you really are smart, he said. That has nothing to do with your brain, Josh. It's all in the books. Haha, not a fan, he replied. I rolled my eyes. Josh pulled the car into the parking lot, and I didn't like what I was seeing. I usually come to school early, but today Josh wanted to put on a show for Bianca, so we came a little late. So there they were, my lovely audience, watching us as we parked near them. Drake, Ian, Mike, Lucas, Roy, Claire, Bianca, and the twins all turned their heads towards us when we got out. My face felt hot, but Josh came around and put his hand around my waist, smiling to encourage me. Smile, Elly. Remember, you're my mate. You're in love with me. He mind-linked. Okay. Sorry, I replied back. We walked towards the group, and I could feel Drake's intense stare on me. I hesitated for a moment but looked up to see Drake's. Attention was on Josh's hand around my waist. He looked up, straight into my eyes, then looked away. Hello, new couple. So how's your love life going? Claire teased. It was only yesterday we found each other, Claire. But I can say I'm the happiest man on earth, Josh replied, and I smiled. As if, one of the twins snorted. I can't believe you two. Her birthday was 3 months ago. So why now? She mocked. I think the moon goddess might have listened to my prayers. I asked her to give me someone who would care about me and accept me as I am, he said, glancing at Bianca for a second. And when I saw Elly that day, at the hospital, near my bed, I thought, would I be lucky enough to have someone like this? He looked at me and kissed my hand. I guess I'm lucky after all. I giggled as we entered the building after saying goodbye to the group. Bianca was sending daggers with her eyes and had probably finished me off 1,000 times in her head. Did you see Bianca's face? It was like, hey, are you okay? I stopped mid-sentence when I saw Josh's face. He looked like he was in pain, and tears were in his eyes. I'm okay. Don't worry. It's just that I feel bad when I hurt her like that. He gave a sad smile. Oh, I'm sorry. We can stop this now if you want, I said, worried. No. I want her to know how I felt when she rejected me, and I want her to feel the same. Only then will she face reality and understand what she did, he stated. Okay, I agreed. Days passed without any problems, and people forgot about us, except for Bianca. She put on a strong face and acted like we meant nothing to her, but I knew otherwise. She wouldn't be able to ignore the mate bond, and I knew I was right when I saw her leaving the washroom with red, puffy eyes. At this rate, our fake relationship wouldn't last a month, and Drake seemed to have given up on finding me because there were no meetings or any suspicious activities for a few days. I was relieved, but also disappointed. Josh took me on a few dates. Well, not real dates. We just hung out where Bianca was with her group. Drake ignored us, but Bianca stole glances from time to time. Ian asked Josh why he hadn't marked me yet, so we told him that since I planned to attend medical school, he didn't want to put any burden on me by marking me. We would have to be apart most of the time, so it would be hard for both of us if we were marked. It was a silly excuse, but Ian bought it. Josh was a real gentleman, and I could only guess how stupid Bianca was to reject him. He would act lovey-dovey in front of everyone, but when we were alone, he always kept his distance and apologized if he made me uncomfortable. Would Drake care about my feelings this way? I sighed, closing my eyes and shaking my head to get rid of unnecessary thoughts. I had to think about Lisa's birthday gift. She was planning a party for a few friends, including me, and she would move to the pack house on weekends after her birthday. Lisa didn't have to break up with her human boyfriend because another werewolf girl found him as her mate. She teased me, saying I worried about her for nothing, and I had to roll my eyes at that. Lisa's birthday party went smoothly, and she showed me her wolf, which had light brown fur with white paws. It was beautiful. Since we had school the next day, we ended the party a little early, but Lisa was so excited to go to bed. She believed she would meet her mate tomorrow, and I was pretty sure it was the first time Lisa was happy about a school day. You look happy, Lisa. Are you excited about our math test today? I teased the girl standing next to me, grinning and humming. What a way to ruin a beautiful morning. Lisa glared at me. I laughed. Okay, sorry, Lisa. Your morning is still beautiful. Just think about meeting your mate. Lisa's face brightened up. Yes, my mate. I can't wait to meet him. Oh, wait. I smell coffee. I face-palmed. I don't think my coffee is your mate. I smell it too, I said, putting my cup of coffee in front of her face. Oh. Lisa slumped against the lockers. How am I going to find him? She threw her hands up. Every time I smell something good, I think it's him. Save me, Elly. I'm going crazy, she said, shaking my shoulders. I rolled my eyes. Such a drama queen. You'll know when you smell it, I said, remembering the time I smelled Drake's scent. You can't ignore it, and it will drive you crazy until you find out where it's coming from. Your body will react to it naturally, I smiled. So don't worry, Lisa. It will happen when it happens, and you're not going to miss it. Really? Is that how you knew Josh was your mate? Wow. Lisa smiled dreamily. Uh-huh, I said nervously. Let's go now, shall we? I distracted her, not wanting to lie to her face. We still had some time before our first class, math, but I wanted to study a bit more for the test, so I dragged Lisa with me towards the classroom, but she stopped suddenly, making me jolt backward. Lisa, don't. Do you smell it? She asked, sniffing the air. It smells like cocoa and cinnamon. Oh, no. This way, she said, pulling me with her. It looked like she smelled her mate. After a few steps, she forgot I was there and ran, pushing people aside, while I ran after her, apologizing to them. A familiar scent hit my nose as I chased Lisa. The scent grew stronger, and I knew I would see Drake soon. But Lisa didn't stop until she was a few feet away from Drake's group. She was breathing heavily, and the guy who had his back to us lifted his head, sniffing. He turned his head, and I was shocked. No, not Ian! What's wrong with you today? Roy asked Ian for the 100th time. We were all annoyed with Ian because of his behavior this morning. Sometimes he looked like he was in another world, and other times he was grumpy. I could see he was restless, but he wouldn't respond when I asked him about it. When we got to school, it got worse. He would growl at others or try to get into a fight if they were in his way. He was my beta, and I had to know what was going on. So we dragged him to a corner and tried to talk to him, but he wouldn't say anything and just got annoyed when we asked questions. It wasn't working. Ian, I used my alpha tone. I hate using it on people, especially my friends, unless it's necessary. Ian stood up straight, responding to my voice. Yes, Alpha, he replied. Okay, that was a good start. What's wrong with you? I asked. He hesitated for a moment and looked at our faces. We were eager to know his answer. He sighed. My wolf has been restless since this morning. Has been pacing around in my head like something is bothering him, but when I ask, he stays silent. And I've been annoyed too because I can't seem to focus on anything today, he explained. Could it be? I think you're going to meet your mate today, I blurted out. I remembered how I was that day. Yes, that's the only reason I can think of, Ian said, smiling nervously. No, it can't be. It has been over a year now. I shrugged. Same for me. Wow, that was the reason, Mike said, surprised. I'm only guessing, I said. You should have used your alpha tone on your mate, Drake. Then, I growled at Mike. Would you? Mike put his hands up in surrender. Sorry, he said. I nodded, trying to calm myself down. What kind of mate would I be if I used my authority to force her to accept me? I wanted her to come to me on her own and fall in love with me naturally. Even if I had to do 1,000 things to win her heart, I would do it. I broke out of my thoughts when I saw Elly coming our way. I was surprised to see her since she usually avoided us. My eyes went to Lisa, who stood a few feet away from us. She was trying to control her breathing, and it looked like Elly had followed her here. I was told that Lisa was moving into the pack house after her birthday this week. Oh my goodness. No way. Ian turned around slowly, and I saw Elly's shocked face, as well as the others. Ian whispered, "Mate," and walked slowly towards the girl. Lisa didn't move, but she smiled lovingly as they stared at each other before they kissed. I looked away. Would my mate and I be like that? Nah, she already knew me and didn't want me. I was happy for Ian, but at the same time, it hurt. We moved around the couple to give them some privacy. I saw Josh talking to Elly, and they also turned to walk away. I walked past them quickly, as I didn't want to see them together either, but I stopped in my tracks when I felt tiny sparks for a second. Surprised, I turned around to face Elly, who was looking away. If I didn't imagine it, I was sure I saw fear in her eyes. "Are you okay, Drake?" Josh asked. "Yes, I am okay," I replied, still keeping my eyes on Elly. She avoided my eyes, and if she wasn't going to look at me, how was I supposed to figure this out? "Do you have anything to ask Elly, my mate?" Josh asked again. My eyes widened. Mate! She was Josh's mate. What was I thinking? "No," I replied. With that, I turned around and joined my group, who had confused looks on their faces. I shook my head to tell them it was nothing. But I was confused too. If she had a mate, then how could I feel sparks? And the scent was different too. Did I just imagine everything then? "Are you all right?" Claire asked me. "Yeah," I said. "Don't worry. We're going to find your mate too." Roy patted my back. I smiled and walked away. I needed some time alone. I couldn't forget what happened earlier and how amazing it was when I felt those sparks. Whether I imagined it or not, the feeling was pure joy and relaxing. Imagine being with her all day and night. I wouldn't ask for anything more. But the problem was, I had all those feelings with the wrong person, Elly, Josh's mate. Could it be that I had strong feelings for her and imagined things since my mate wasn't around? That might be the case. During lunchtime, Lisa joined our table, and we welcomed her happily. I guess she was part of our group now, but I knew Bianca and the twins hated it. Lisa ignored them completely, and I could see a feisty and perfect beta female in that girl. Well, Roy had Claire, and Ian found his mate today. If only my mate were here, everything would be perfect. We would be like a little family that cared about nothing but our own happiness. But I knew that happiness was far, far away. I didn't get a wink of sleep last night. I had bags under my eyes and felt so tired. I didn't even bother to comb my hair today, and I was pretty sure I looked like a mess. It was lunchtime, but I didn't have any appetite to eat anything either. I sat at our table, ignoring the looks others were giving me as my friends brought their lunch. Roy passed me a juice bottle, but I just held it without opening it. I could feel my friends staring at me, but I ignored them too, as I didn't want to say what was on my mind. But I knew I wasn't going to get away with it when Roy put his fork down and turned to face me. "Okay, speak up. What's wrong with you today?" I cringed at his question, but he continued. "Yesterday it was Ian, and you're acting weird today." "What the hell is going on?" he said, exasperated. "I told you I couldn't get any sleep last night," I answered tiredly. "We can see that, Drake. What kept you awake last night? That's what we want to know?" Ian joined in. I was getting more irritated by the second, and I really didn't want to talk about yesterday, especially about the sparks I felt with Elly. Is it about Elly or Josh? I looked at Claire, who sat down beside Roy with her food tray. Where was she? I hadn't even realized she wasn't here until now. "Is everything okay with Bianca?" Roy asked her. She nodded, sighing. "That stupid girl. She regrets rejecting Josh now. But what can we do? He already has Elly as his mate." She shrugged. I rubbed my face before running a hand through my hair. Not Elly again. Why is she crying? I mean, she rejected him. He accepted it. End of story. "No feelings attached," Mike commented. "That's the weirdest thing." She said it hurts to see him with Elly and she still feels the pull towards him. "Bianca asked me why she's feeling this way when she rejected him a long time ago," Claire said, starting to eat her food. "Don't you feel that way towards someone, Drake?" She paused, except Elly. Others laughed while my face heated up with embarrassment. I groaned. "No." "So what kept you awake last night, Drake?" Roy asked in a mocking tone. He wasn't going to give up, was he? I sighed. "I felt sparks with someone yesterday," I said. Others gasped in surprise, but only for a second. So I'm not sure if I really felt it or just imagined it, I quickly added. Is that someone, Elly? Claire asked. I nodded my head. Why are you guys talking about my best friend? I nearly jumped out of my skin when I saw Lisa standing near our table. I forgot she was coming to join us. Could this get any worse? I was already feeling awkward. I'm sorry I was late. We had a quiz today. She smiled and pecked Ian on the cheek. You can trust her. She's the beta female. She knows how to keep secrets, Ian assured us. So what's this about Elly? She looked at our faces, waiting for an answer. Come on. Roy is her brother. And you trust him but not me? She pouted. No, it's just that Elly's name keeps coming up whenever we talk about Drake's mate. That's why, Claire finally said. Oh, Lisa quirked her eyebrows and looked at me. But she has Josh now. She gave me a faint smile. Even if Elly was your mate, I can totally understand her, after what happened with all of you. She pointed her finger at the others. And especially you. She pointed at me. Do you think she would want to be your Luna and your mate? I know I would hate that. She shrugged. How is she supposed to say anything? Should she say, Hi, I'm your mate and this pack's Luna. You guys bullied me for the same reason, remember? She clenched her hands. I would rather get myself rejected than stick with you guys, she finished. It took me some time for what she said to sink in. My eyes widened. Could it be? Oh my God! Claire laughed. This can't be true, right? She asked us nervously. I mean, sure, Drake's mate wanted to be rejected too, and she wouldn't give a reason and doesn't want to meet unless you promise. And she's from our pack too. And she said she is smart. Claire looked at us, shocked. No, way! Shoot, Roy muttered. That explains why you can't control your emotions around her, Drake. But Josh is her mate, so how? Lisa stuttered. They could be pretending. Remember? She found Josh as her mate when we were in the clearing. So Elly didn't turn into her wolf, and she was there too, at the hospital that day, Claire said. Oh, Elly, poor girl. She was so excited to meet her mate. I always wondered how Josh smelled her scent with those perfumes she uses. Now I can see why. They're not mates, Lisa murmured. What did you say? Perfumes? I growled. Lisa jumped back, and Ian glared at me. Yes, perfumes. I gave her one for her birthday. She gulped. Why didn't I think about that before? Even my father hated the smell of perfume since it messed with our senses. That was why nobody used perfume around him or in the pack house. I needed to find Elly. Now! I was about to get up from my seat when Lucas spoke up. But she's not a warrior, and I've never seen her train. So she can't be the one who fought with us, Lucas said, looking between us. All my hopes came crashing down. It was true. She never trained. Ah, about that. Roy scratched the back of his neck. Dad trained her himself. Only a few people knew, including Alpha Anderson. Mike and Lucas' mouths dropped open in shock, and I was surprised to hear that too. How far would my father go for Elly? I shook my head, smiling. So you're telling me your sister beat us that day? By herself? Mike snorted. It can't be. She's a warrior's daughter, you idiot. Fighting comes to her naturally, and she works hard. I've seen her, Roy growled. Mike muttered sorry. I asked Bianca. Claire looked at me. She said Josh didn't accept her rejection, so that means they're pretending. But why did Josh choose Elly? Does he know Elly is your mate? Ian questioned. I was overwhelmed with all this new information about my mate, Elly. Elly was my mate. My mate was Elly. Elly was mine. I felt all kinds of emotions at that moment, happy, sad, angry, and impatient. I understood why she didn't want to come forward, but how could she decide to reject our bond? I wanted to find her, to tell her to give me a chance, and I wanted to embrace her so badly, to feel her warmth, her touch, and the sparks. I could die happily now, knowing that Elly was my mate. Earth to Drake, Lucas waved a hand in front of my face. Are you happy now? You finally found your mate, Claire said with a smile. I need to talk to Elly first. It will be hard, but she's my mate. I smiled, loving the way it sounded when I said that. Wow, I thought Ian just imagined things, but I can see now that you like Elly a lot. Lisa looked surprised. You have no idea, Ian chuckled. So how are you going to do this? Roy questioned. I'm asking because, you know, she avoided you for nearly 4 months, and she didn't even bother to tell her brother or her best friend. She's keeping everything to herself, And I'm sure it's because of what happened in the past. He breathed out. Since I know you really like her, I'll give you my support, but I care about my sister too. What are you trying to say, Roy? I asked, confused. I'm going to take the middle ground. I'll help you, but I won't let you push her hard or force her. And I don't want Elly to think that no one is on her side or understands her. Roy sighed. All I'm asking is that you let the mate bond work its magic. Win her heart first. I laughed. Roy, why do you think I waited all these months for my mate? I got angry. I could have easily found her if I had told my father, but I didn't. I tried to find her because I wanted to see who my mate was. She was hiding from me. You know how hard it is to stay away from your mate after you've found her, I lashed out. Calm down, Drake. Has just worried about Elly. You know how she was back then. She didn't even come to school, Claire defended him. Lisa lifted her hand. I know this isn't the best time, but I have to say something too, she said timidly. I agree with Roy. I'm going to stay out of this too. I think you figured it out because of what I said. I already feel guilty towards Elly, and I don't want to lose my best friend. Whatever happened here, I'll keep it to myself. And don't include me in your future plans because I don't want to lie to her. Actually, I can understand why she didn't say anything to me. She didn't want to put me in a tough spot between my alpha and my best friend. She looked at me. I'm sorry, but I wish you good luck, she said. I nodded my head. It's all right. I understand. Lisa let out a sigh of relief and mumbled, Thank you. Well, if you want to talk to Elly. Claire motioned for me to look ahead. She's coming this way. I snapped my head in the direction she had pointed. But it would be best if you talked to her alone, she added. I nodded in agreement, but my eyes were on Elly. She looked beautiful and calm, just like she always did. She walked towards us, searching for someone, and when she looked up, her eyes met mine. Seeing that my eyes were already on her, Elly's eyes widened, and that put a smile on my face. She blushed and looked away, making my heart flutter at that simple action. If only she knew how happy I was. Elly stopped walking, and her eyes glazed over. Someone was mind-linking her. I looked at my friends at the table, but it wasn't any of them. They were busy stealing glances between Elly and me. I saw someone pass by in a blur and walk towards Elly. I groaned, recognizing it was Josh. Josh whispered something to Elly, and she looked shocked. She looked at us nervously, fear flashing across her eyes, and I guessed Josh had heard us after all. After sacrificing my one and only best friend to Drake's group, I walked to the cafeteria alone. I couldn't believe Ian was Lisa's mate. That wasn't fair. The moon goddess wasn't playing fair. First, it was my brother, who had to be the future head warrior and one of Drake's best friends. That was okay. They were friends since childhood, and I accepted their friendship even though I didn't like it. I had to agree. The moon goddess had nothing to do with that. But what was she thinking when she chose me as Drake's mate? And when she chose Lisa, my best friend, as Ian's mate, was she ganging up with Drake against me? I nearly had a heart attack that day when I felt sparks with Drake. It felt amazing, but I didn't have time to cherish it as I realized what had happened. I was so grateful that Josh was by my side. If not, I didn't want to think about what could have happened. Drake looked confused, but I knew he wouldn't be able to forget it soon, because I couldn't. I hoped he wouldn't suspect me because of those few seconds, and I sighed, knowing there was nothing I could do. I usually didn't have lunch in the cafeteria. Goodness knows how much I hated that place. But as Josh's fake mate, I had to sit in the cafeteria for the whole lunch period with his group of friends. Josh told me his friends knew the truth, that I wasn't his mate and was only helping him. As promised, Josh kept my secret to himself and made sure I was comfortable around his group. Since his friends were nice and easygoing, I didn't mind it. Lisa joined Drake's table as Ian's mate and the beta female, which she had to do. Since I had my mate Josh, there was no way I could ask Lisa to stick with me. Sometimes I wondered how wonderful it would be to hang out with that group, where you had your brother and your best friend by your side. We would be like a little family that shared warmth, love, and happiness through our bond. The thought warmed my heart, but it wasn't strong enough to heal my wounds. I shook my head, not wanting to think about anything. I was already late, and I didn't want to keep Josh waiting. As soon as I entered the cafeteria, Drake's scent hit me hard. I breathed it in, as it had become a habit of mine ever since I started having lunch here. It calmed me down as much as it worried me because I shouldn't get used to it, to him. Josh was nowhere to be seen, and I hesitated to walk towards Drake's group, but I had to find him. As I walked forward, Drake's scent filled my nose and started to take over my senses. I knew exactly where he was sitting, and struggled not to look in that direction. With each step I took, I lost my strength to the mate bond, and I finally gave up. I looked up to have a quick glance at Drake, and I was surprised to see he was already looking at me. He didn't look away, and neither did I. His eyes held so many emotions, but the more I stared into them, I could clearly read one: love. My heart started to beat faster, and my brain fogged with emotions, and the smile he gave only made it worse. I managed to tear my eyes away somehow, but my cheeks felt warm thinking about what had just happened. Why was he looking at me like that? With so much love in those beautiful eyes? Was it really for me? The only explanation I believed was that the mate bond pushed him to do it involuntarily, and I wasn't going to accept anything else. I stopped in my tracks when Josh mind-linked, asking me to stop walking and stay right there until he came to me. I wondered why, but I did as he told me. I didn't have to wait long, as I saw him walking towards me in a hurry. I could tell he was nervous about something, but I waited patiently for him to tell me what was wrong. As soon as he came, Josh whispered 2 sentences in my ear that sent me into shock. They figured everything out. Drake knows you're his mate. As soon as I got out of my shock, my eyes went to Drake's group. I watched each one of them sitting at Drake's table, including Lisa and my brother. They were all trying not to be obvious, but the expressions on their faces gave it away. I felt nervous thinking about Drake's next move, and I was afraid of my past repeating itself. Josh dragged me out, away from the crowded place, and I was thankful. He told me everything, from the beginning to the end, including the looks Drake had been getting from others all day. He knew about yesterday and the sparks, so he understood what Drake was going through. Josh told me it was Bianca's name that made him eavesdrop on their conversation, and he stayed because they started to talk about me too. When I saw Lisa again, she had a guilty look on her face, and we talked less. I would talk to her later, but not now. What I really worried about was Drake and what he was planning to do with me now. When school was over, I ran to Josh's car and got in. He was already inside, waiting for me. "Hurry up!" I shouted and looked back to see if I could see anyone from Drake's group. I had avoided Drake all day. I knew he was looking for a chance to talk to me, and I didn't want to give him one. I didn't expect him to find out so soon, and I hadn't prepared my mind to face him like this. I needed to come up with something so I could easily deny the truth if he asked me. When Josh drove his car out of the school, I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. I buried my head in my hands. I felt like I was dying. "Are you okay? I thought your heart would jump out of your body." "It was beating that fast," Josh asked, worried. "I'm okay," I sighed. Drake was on my tail all day. I avoided him because I didn't want to talk to him. "How long are you going to avoid him, Elly?" "It's not good to make him angry. He is an alpha, and you're his mate. Naturally, he's possessive over you," he said. "He has to reject me. I'm not going to be a Luna to him or this pack. I never wanted to be." I spat angrily. "Ouch." Josh smiled, faking it, but I could see the hurt in his eyes. I looked away. "Just don't let him come near me or touch me. That's all I'm asking from you," I mumbled, and I saw him nod his head from the corner of my eye. We stayed silent after that, and Josh dropped me off at the hospital. The next day, I went to school prepared and determined. No matter what, I would not accept that he was my mate, and I had answers in my mind for all the questions he might ask. I knew Drake was going to talk to me today because Roy asked me to meet him during lunch. I told him to meet me in the library because first, there would be no one inside except me and Josh, and second, I didn't want anyone to hear what we talked about. So when lunchtime came, I took my time going to the library and tried to calm my beating heart. I was nervous and afraid, but there was no turning back. I went inside and sat in the far corner of the library. Josh said he would be here in 5 minutes, and I prayed for Drake not to come before him. But luck wasn't on my side, and I smelled his scent even before he entered the library. My heart started to beat faster, and I started to sweat. I had time before he found me, so I tried to calm myself down and mind-linked Josh. I felt his eyes on me as he walked towards me slowly. I had my head buried in a book, and he stood a few feet away. "Elly!" His deep voice sent a shiver down my spine, and I squeezed my eyes shut before opening them again. I looked up, and my breath hitched. He looked so handsome. "Alpha!" I got up and bowed my head. Where is Roy?" I stuttered. My throat was dry, and I looked around for others. I saw Josh enter and smiled inwardly. I looked at Drake again when I heard him sigh. "Elly, I need to talk to you," he said. "Why do you need to talk to my mate, Drake?" Josh walked past him and came to my side, putting his hand over my shoulder protectively. "Save me if he tries to kill me." Josh mind-linked me. Drake looked at his hand on my shoulder and growled, glaring at him. Josh visibly flinched, and I saw Roy, Claire, Ian, and 2 other boys running towards us. Great, more audience. They stood behind Drake but said nothing. "Let go of her, mutt," Drake spat, and my heart skipped a beat. "What do you want?" I shouted, getting his attention. His head snapped towards me, and his eyes softened. "I need to talk to you, Elly." "Why?" "I know that you're my mate." I laughed sarcastically. "What? Are you trying to make fun of me again like you did 2 years ago?" I saw everyone flinch at that, and Drake had a look of hurt. I apologized, Elly. "Please give me a chance. We're mates, after all," he pleaded. "We are not mates," I said angrily. "Do I smell like your mate?" I questioned, knowing he had no answer for that. "You're hiding it." "Really?" I looked surprised, but that made Drake angry. "Let's go for sparks then," he said, trying to grab my hand, but Josh pushed me behind him. "Are you trying to touch someone else's mate, Alpha?" Josh asked. "Josh!" the others shouted, and Drake growled loudly, his eyes turning black. And he looked at me with those eyes. "Just remember, Elly, I asked you nicely." With that, he turned and stormed out of the library, with the others following him. Roy looked at me, trying to say something, but changed his mind and went after Drake. Ouch. After they had gone, Josh and I plopped down on chairs and sat silently, thinking about the consequences of our actions. I mumbled a sorry, but it looked like he didn't hear it. I didn't see Drake after that, and he didn't come to school the next day either. I was worried, but I didn't want to ask anyone about him. I was running laps when suddenly the pack link opened and Drake spoke up. "Whoever my mate is, I need to talk to you now. I've decided to accept your rejection." My head hit another tree, making it fall to the ground. I raked my claws against it, imagining it was Josh, that useless mutt. How dare he act like that in front of me, his alpha, and with my mate? I'm going to deal with him. With that thought, I knocked another tree over, and it fell with a loud thud. I kept doing this until I had no energy left and collapsed on my paws, panting hard. Roy came and tossed me a pair of shorts. After changing, I sat on the ground, leaning against a tree. I sighed, looking up at the sky as tears pricked my eyes. I didn't think Elly disliked me that much. "She doesn't dislike you." I looked at Roy, surprised. He sighed. "I can't read your mind, but I guess that's what you would think after Elly's behavior." He shrugged. I nodded my head. "Where are the others?" I asked. "They went back to the pack house. We should go too." He held out his hand to pull me up. We walked through the forest silently, lost in our own thoughts. "You're not going to give up on her, are you?" Roy asked. I shook my head. "Never." "That's good," he smiled. We fell into a comfortable silence again and reached the pack house. I went directly to my room and flopped on my bed, staring at the white ceiling. All I wanted from Elly was a chance to prove my love for her. I was grateful to the moon goddess for giving Elly as my mate, but I was sure Elly was upset with her for that. Why didn't she let me explain what really happened 2 years ago? That I mistook her for someone else and treated her that way because of others. I knew she had a crush on me. Well, most of them did. But she never acted like the other girls who wanted to be with me because I was the future alpha, and I liked her for that. So imagine the hurt and disappointment I felt when I heard her confession letter. It was my mistake to react like that without thinking, but it already happened. If it wasn't for Josh, I would already have Elly by my side, enjoying her company, listening to whatever she had to say. He ruined my chance, and I knew he did it because of Elly. But if Elly thought doing something like that would keep me away, she was mistaken. I wouldn't stop until she became mine, the Luna of this pack. I didn't go to school the next day because, first, I was still angry and didn't want to cause any trouble. And second, my wolf was urging me to mark Elly after what happened yesterday, and I didn't want to do it without her consent. I was slowly giving in and was afraid I would lose control the moment I saw her. I was dying of boredom throughout the day, so I drove to school and decided to wait for my friends. I was thinking about Elly when I smelled her alluring scent again. I thought my mind was playing tricks on me. But no, it was there. It was very faint, but I decided to follow it. That was the 3rd time I'd smelled her scent, and it drove me crazy. I followed it and ended up at the track field. She was running laps, and I guessed she forgot her perfume again or didn't bother since I wasn't at school. I saw that as my chance to confront Elly and decided to act quickly. I opened the pack link and threw her a bait. "Whoever my mate is, I need to talk to you now. I've decided to accept your rejection." As soon as I said that, I blocked everyone from mind-linking me. Elly froze on the spot for a few minutes before running again. Everyone else finished their laps and went inside, but Elly walked behind the building, and my phone started to ring. I answered the call, smiling. "Are you happy now? Finally going to get what you wanted?" I asked, faking my anger, and walked towards the building where she was. "I'm ecstatic," she mocked, but I could tell she was hurt. I peeked from the corner, making sure she wouldn't catch my scent. By now, the perfume had worn off, and I could smell her intoxicating rose scent completely. I breathed it in greedily, and my eyes turned black. "Actually, I forgot to tell you something," I said, and put the phone in my pocket. "What's that?" I heard her ask. "That you forgot to put on your perfume," I said loudly while stepping out. Elly looked at me, shocked, and I smiled triumphantly. She took a step back, and I knew she was going to run. In a flash, I had her in my arms and pinned her against the wall. Sparks erupted wherever our skin touched, and Elly gasped while my heart beat faster. She struggled to get out of my hold, but I held on tighter. "Let me go, Drake!" Elly shouted angrily, but I stayed silent, not letting her go. She struggled one more time, and I pulled her closer to me. "Give up! There's no point in fighting back." "No! Let me go!" I said. "Let me go!" She gritted her teeth. I pulled her closer until our bodies were pressed tightly together. I held her neck with one arm while using the other to keep her in place. I buried my head in her neck and grazed my canines on her soft skin. She stiffened at first and then shivered under my touch. "Please," she whispered, sniffing. I sighed and pulled away. "Well, talk about this tomorrow," I whispered and left before my wolf took over completely. I let out a deep breath and tried to process what just happened. I caressed my neck and shivered, remembering how he grazed his canines over the marking spot. I shook my head, trying to forget, and decided to put it aside until tomorrow. Josh dropped me at the hospital after school because my mom had asked me to come. She wanted to introduce me to her mentor, who had visited personally to congratulate us on our achievements. Professor Alaric was a well-respected doctor in our werewolf society, which was why Alpha Anderson and my father were there to greet him too. He was a nice and funny person. He told us how he wanted my mom to be his son's mate, or if not, his wife. My mom blushed and laughed, but my father glared at him the whole time. I smiled at my father's childish behavior, but who knew I was Professor Alaric's next target? It was my turn to blush when he asked if I would like to meet his grandson, who was in his first year at medical college. Alpha Anderson grunted, and my father clearly showed his displeasure, but the professor didn't care. Sensing the rising tension, my mom distracted the professor by taking him to visit the laboratory. I burst out laughing at my father, who swore to confront the professor if he ever mentioned his grandson again. Surprisingly, Alpha Anderson nodded in agreement. I was kind of relieved to realize Drake hadn't told anyone yet. But it was short-lived when Roy called me. I had blocked them all from mind-linking, but I guess I should have blocked their phone numbers too. I hesitated but answered the call anyway. "Elly, you blocked me from mind-linking," Roy yelled through the phone, but I stayed silent. "You can't ignore us forever. Or Drake." My cheeks heated up. Roy certainly didn't want to beat around the bush. I gripped the phone tightly, part of me wanting to be angry at him for talking to me like that. "Why did you call, Roy?" I asked a bit loudly. I heard him sigh. "No need to be angry," he said, his voice low. "I called you because—" He hesitated. "Did you agree to meet that professor's grandson?" My eyebrows raised at that question. "Why do you want to know?" "You should have asked who," Roy replied. My eyes widened. "He can hear you." "So, no, I didn't," I said flatly. "All right then. We're coming to pick you up tomorrow morning." "And Josh will pick me up," I interrupted. I heard a growl on the other side. "Don't drag him into this mess, Elly," Roy snapped. "Josh already got back with Bianca, and that's why Drake let him go," he said. Okay, that was news to me too. You know how overprotective and possessive we are over our mates, especially alphas. Yet you decided to play this game. "I wasn't playing a game, Roy," I snapped back. "I didn't want to be the laughingstock again, where everyone made fun of me for the same reason." "Him trying to avoid now," I growled in anger. "Do you care about me at all?" I asked, my voice breaking at the end. and hung up before he could say anything. Roy called one more time, but I didn't pick up. Then my phone vibrated, letting me know I had a message. I sighed and opened it. It was from Roy. Drake and I weren't part of what happened 2 years ago, and I do care about you. I know he hurt you in the past, but Elly, please give him a chance. He's waited for you all his life, and I know for sure he won't let anything happen to you this time. Trust me. I sighed, letting out my frustration, and threw my phone away, annoyed, as if it were the reason for all my problems. I chuckled sarcastically, angry with myself for not being able to do anything about my situation. When I was about to go for a run, Josh mind-linked me, asking me to meet him in our backyard. Great, I wanted to talk to him too. Josh! I shouted as soon as I got out the back door. He emerged from the tree line that separated our backyard and the woods. I crossed my hands over my chest and glared at him. You should have told me. You know, this is not. I trailed off, seeing the person who followed Josh. Bianca, I asked, surprised. Why was she here? I waited until they reached me. Josh was wearing only shorts, while Bianca wore a t-shirt that reached her mid-thighs. It looked like they went for a run together. I quirked my eyebrows at Josh, but he only smiled. Thank you. I looked at Bianca, shocked. Did she just say what I thought she said? She gave me a nervous smile. Because of you, I understood how much he means to me, she said, holding Josh's hand. Josh just smiled back, looking at her with so much love in his eyes. I'm happy for you guys, I said honestly, looking between them. Especially for you, Josh. I gave him a warm smile. He nodded, smiling back. Thank you. Drake will be a great mate too, Bianca whispered. I gaped at her and turned towards Josh angrily. Josh quickly put his hands up. She saved me when Drake got really upset with me. He chuckled. He was so angry but let me go after I explained everything. Josh grabbed my hands. And I'm happy for you too. You deserve someone like Drake. I stood in front of my mirror, looking at my reflection. That was the 3rd time I'd changed my outfit. It was becoming a headache, but I couldn't seem to leave the room without the perfect outfit. Or maybe I just wanted to look perfect. I felt like I was going to a battlefield, with more people knowing I was Drake's mate, and deep down, I wanted to look good for him too. He would be there watching my every move, and at least I didn't want to be self-conscious about how I looked. Finally, I settled on a yellow sweater, which complemented my green eyes and brown hair, with blue jeans and black flat pumps. I put my hair in a ponytail like I always did. I felt good and comfortable, and it gave me a sense of confidence. I walked downstairs, where Roy was already waiting for me. I rolled my eyes. He usually stayed in his car until I got in, but today he came inside to walk me out personally. Did you think I would run away? I asked sarcastically. Isn't that why you came inside? Roy looked me up and down several times and rubbed his face, trying to hide a smile. What? Did I look awkward? Better safe than sorry. He shrugged, and I had to roll my eyes again. I wasn't thinking of running away until after graduation. I taunted and walked past him. We got out of the house to walk towards Roy's car, but I stopped at the doorstep, seeing the person who leaned against his Range Rover with Claire. I really didn't expect to see Drake this early in the morning, and he actually looked handsome. He was talking with Claire and hadn't noticed me yet. Where's your car? I whispered to Roy. Why? Isn't that one more comfortable than mine? Roy whispered back, earning a glare from me. He only chuckled and pushed me forward. I walked slowly, trying to calm my nerves, and took my time to check Drake out. Drake wore a yellow sweater with a green shirt underneath, and it complemented his olive skin tone perfectly. Blue jeans and black leather boots completed his outfit, and his hair was, oh, my goddess. No, no, no! Now I could see why Roy looked at me like that. Drake and I were wearing matching outfits like a couple. I turned around on the spot before Drake and Claire could notice me. I would die from embarrassment if they saw me like this. I bumped into Roy, and he held me back. Where are you going? He asked. Please, Roy. Let me go back. I need to change, I almost cried. Why? I thought you two would look cute together with matching outfits, Roy teased, making my cheeks heat up. But he didn't let me go. Instead, he turned me around and pushed me forward. I struggled, but then he shouted at Drake. Drake, let's go, that idiot. As soon as he heard his name, Drake's head whipped towards us. His face instantly lit up, and he looked me up and down several times. Please, goddess, take me now. He bit his lip to hide his smile but failed when Claire giggled, looking between him and me. Well, I'm pretty sure now that the mate bond is working, Claire said, hugging me. I was sure my face was completely red now and believed it wouldn't go down anytime soon. I tried to get into the back seat with Claire, but Roy pushed me towards the passenger seat where Drake held the door open. I whimpered, but Roy didn't budge. I huffed and sat down, and Drake closed the door. After Drake got in, he sniffed the air and looked at me before his eyes glazed over. He was mind-linking someone, and when it was over, he started to drive away. Elly, are you wearing perfume again? Claire mind-linked me. I turned to look at Claire, then at Drake. I guess she was the one Drake had mind-linked earlier. Yes, you don't have to hide your scent anymore. But I don't want an alpha going crazy over me. The scent of your mate is hard to resist, I interrupted. Hello, that's the purpose of the scent. To go crazy. I blocked Claire, and she huffed from the back seat. It was true that I didn't want Drake to go crazy over me because of my scent. I didn't want a repeat of yesterday, and I got goosebumps just remembering it. The scent always took over your senses, making you act on your emotions. I wanted Drake to understand that and to remember how much he disliked me before. The trip to school was silent but strangely comfortable. I breathed in Drake's intoxicating scent, and my hands itched to touch him, to feel the sparks. I felt the pull getting stronger, since this was the first time I had stayed this close to him for so long. Stupid mate bond. My wolf, on the other hand, was happy and wanted to get closer to Drake. But I reminded her of my past, and she stayed silent after that. I was grateful that my wolf loved me more than she loved her mate. It would be very hard if she started to go crazy over him too. As soon as the car stopped, I jumped out and ran towards the school. I heard them call my name, but I didn't stop until I was inside the building. I quickly grabbed my stuff and entered my first class. I was out of breath from all the running, but I had to do it because I didn't want anyone to find out Drake and I were mates. The school was filled with gossip about Bianca accepting Josh as her mate, and they wondered what was going on between me and Josh. But I knew it would soon die down when they figured out I was only helping him. For now, Bianca and Josh were the hot topic, with my name being dragged along. But if they saw me today with Drake, wearing matching outfits and getting out of his car, it wouldn't take a second for them to understand that I was his mysterious mate. Since everybody knew our history, our gossip wouldn't die down so easily. First, they would be surprised and talk about what had happened during the last 4 months, how Drake tried to find me, and what he went through. Then, about me hiding from him and how I managed to stay away. But the biggest question would be why. They would drag my past out of its hole and make it scratch my wounds all over again. The crush, the fake confession, the weak girl, embarrassing herself in the cafeteria, crying, being made fun of, not coming to school, and so on. But they wouldn't remember who caused it in the first place. And I was not ready to face anything like that again. I would never be. Elly. I broke out of my thoughts and looked at Lisa. Hey! I gave her a tight smile. She sighed and took the seat next to me. Elly, I'm sorry. Okay. I'm not on Drake's side or helping him in any way, so please. Can I have my best friend back? I already told him that. I know. I looked at her face. I heard everything from Josh. It's not your fault. But can you promise you won't do anything behind my back? Yes, she grinned. I promise. I nodded, smiling, and she hugged me tightly. I thought I lost my best friend forever. You don't know how much I worried about you, Lisa cried. I know. I'm sorry about that, I said, squeezing her hand. Enough about me. So tell me, what did I miss? Lisa blushed, and I narrowed my eyes. I quickly grabbed her collar and pulled it aside to see the mark on her neck. I gasped and hit her arm. Really, Lisa, it has only been 5 days, and you jumped straight into this? I pointed at her mark. What happened to your plans for what you wanted to do with your mate before mating? I asked. It's hard, Elly, she whined. He is a beta, and our wolves were going crazy for each other. Plus, he's my mate. It was bound to happen anyway. She shrugged. But if you had no problems with Drake, Lisa whispered and looked around. He would have marked you right then and there. He is an alpha, you know. His wolf has no patience. My cheeks heated up, and I coughed, cursing Lisa in my mind. He already tried to do that. That's not going to happen. I'm going to make him reject me. He's acting like this because of the mate bond. So, Elly, Lisa whisper-yelled. He really likes you. You should give him a chance. Lisa, I warned. Then the teacher entered the class. I'm telling the truth, though, she mumbled under her breath. The rest of the day went peacefully, and when lunchtime came, I decided to spend it in the library, hoping Drake would leave me alone. But I was wrong. I suddenly smelled Drake's scent, and someone pulled out the chair next to me. I jumped back, my heart beating faster, and looked at Drake. He had a smile on his face, and his eyes twinkled with amusement. He dragged the chair closer and sat on it, turning to face me. Our knees brushed, and he put his hand over my chair, staring at my face. My cheeks heated up, and I looked away. "Did you really think you could get away from me?" he asked, amused. "The library was the first place that came to my mind since I know you love books," he said. I glared at him before looking away. He chuckled. "Are you giving me the silent treatment now?" Drake asked again, but I didn't reply. I heard him sigh. "I didn't know you disliked me this much, Elly. But I can't let you go." His voice was laced with hurt. "Why?" I looked at him. "You never liked me, and you even told me I was too weak to be anything. So why? Why do you need me now?" I asked angrily, looking straight into his eyes. But the hurt I saw in those eyes made me back away, feeling guilty and making my eyes wander everywhere but him. I felt uneasy. "Look at me, Elly." I didn't move. He sighed. "Look at me, or else ill." "You'll what?" I got up, hissing. Drake growled, and in the blink of an eye, he pulled my hand, making me fall onto his lap. I shrieked in surprise. "Can you at least listen to me now?" "Drake, what are you doing?" Elly looked at me with fear in her eyes. She tried to get up one more time, but I held her tightly. "Let me go." She looked around frantically, afraid of others seeing us together. I knew she didn't want others to know about us being mates, but it was time for her to accept it. "Nobody is here. Not even the librarian," I assured her. "What? Are you saying we're alone?" She got nervous. "Yes, you didn't want anyone to see us, right?" I bit back my smile. "Yes, but—" "Elly!" I cupped her face and turned it towards me. She gasped, seeing my face inches from hers, and her breathing became uneven. I held my breath too, as strange feelings stirred inside me. I wanted to kiss her so badly. But no, not before I explained everything to her. "Elly, we need to clear out some misunderstandings," I said, trying to control myself. Her breaths fanned my face, making tiny sparks spread through my skin. I groaned inwardly and looked at her face. She looked confused, but was listening. I let out a deep sigh. "Here we go. I want to explain everything that happened 2 years ago." From my side, she had a hurtful expression on her face, and I knew she didn't want to be reminded of it again. But she nodded, telling me to continue. I smiled, thankfully. Since I was very young, all I wanted in my life was a happy and loving family like my parents. They are mates, and the love I witnessed was something I wanted to share with my mate. I looked at her again, and she blushed. I loved her red cheeks. She looked adorable. So that's why I never had any girlfriends, and it annoyed me when other girls threw themselves at me, hoping I would start something with them. I continued. "I knew most of them had a crush on me, including you, and some still do. But it wasn't me who wrote that letter, and the crush I had on you was an innocent one. I was never going to confess it to you," Elly declared and looked at me, hoping I would understand. I nodded. "I know that now. But at the time, I didn't," I pointed out. "I was glad when you didn't behave like other girls, and also hoped you wouldn't, because you're my best friend's sister, and I didn't want to hurt you." She smiled and gestured for me to continue. "So when I heard that letter, I got angry. You weren't the first one to confess like that on my birthday. But Id had enough, and when Bianca read that letter in front of everyone, I felt hurt and disappointed." I sighed. "So I lashed out at you, letting out all my emotions, and I said those words out of anger." I grabbed her hands and looked into her eyes. "I didn't mean any of those words, Elly, and I regret treating you like that. Please forgive me, Elly, and please give me a chance. I would do anything you ask, except rejection." "For that," she laughed, a genuine, melodic laugh. And I smiled along with her, feeling relaxed and happy. She had never smiled in front of me, and that laugh meant she wasn't angry with me anymore. I felt like a huge weight had been lifted off my chest. "Okay, I'll give you a chance," she said after a few minutes. I hugged her tightly and let out a sigh of relief. "Thank you, baby. You don't know how much that meant to me," I whispered. She squeezed my hand. "And I'm not comfortable about letting others know yet. So, can we keep this a secret for now?" she asked, worrying about my reaction. "Sure," I smiled. "Anything for my beautiful mate." She blushed instantly, and I wanted to kiss her rosy cheeks. "But I have to tell my friends." You know, they helped me a lot, and they would be happy for us. Okay. And stop using perfumes. No! You'll mark me the moment you smell my scent. It happened before. I'm going to mark you whether I smell it or not. What? Her face was deep red. That was the third time I've smelled your scent. If I had gotten used to it, nothing would have happened. I shrugged, making my point. Okay, and I won't mark you without your consent. I promise you that. Really? Yes. And you have to promise me you're not going to run away from me again. Elly, I said in a stern voice, even though I was afraid of her reply. She giggled. Okay. I promise you. Thank you, love. I leaned in and kissed her temple. Elly looked into my eyes, searching for something she wanted to see, and I knew she found it when her eyes reflected the same emotion as mine. Love. Her heart started to beat faster, and her breathing became uneven. My heart was also hammering against my chest, and I leaned in closer. I felt the bond getting stronger, and we were slowly slipping into our own world. I cupped her face, and tingles spread through my hand. She closed her eyes, and the bell rang. Her eyes snapped open, and she jumped back into her chair, covering her face with her hands. Oh my God, she mumbled, embarrassed. I chuckled and grabbed her hand, placing a kiss on it. I'll see you later, my mate. Oh. I couldn't believe I almost kissed Drake, my 2-year-long enemy whom I had forgiven just a moment ago. I was embarrassed, but I knew I shouldn't be. We were mates, and it was normal. But in our case, I felt a little awkward because I had considered him an enemy for so long. I was glad I decided to listen to him. It gave both of us a chance to start over, and I got the chance to forgive him completely. After hearing his side of the story, there was no way I could hold a grudge against him. I felt his sincerity and knew he meant every bit of his words. Drake was a good person and had a strong personality. He treated everyone the same and would be a good leader. That was why everyone liked him, and girls drooled over him. I was like that before that incident and could have stayed the same if it hadn't made me dislike him. Since I understood him now, I felt like the wall of dislike I had built up had collapsed. I felt all kinds of emotions towards Drake and was already overwhelmed by it. They started to pour in, making me feel kind of empty without him. Get a grip, Elly, get a grip. I chanted to myself and decided to occupy my brain with some complex problems for a distraction. I was never one to be happy to hear the last bell ring, and I was nervous. My cheeks started to ache from all the blushing I got just thinking about seeing Drake again and meeting the others. Someone is already in love, Lisa sang, making me blush so hard again. No, I'm not, I denied. Ha, sure you aren't, Lisa mocked, but her eyes twinkled. I'm so happy for you, Elly, and I'm glad you decided to forgive him. He is really a good person, and you two deserve each other, she smiled genuinely. Oh, Elly, you don't know how happy I am. We're going to be stuck with each other forever. She squealed and hugged me again for the 5th time. I rolled my eyes, but her happiness was contagious, and it put a smile on my face. Oh, let's go. Ian is already here. Lisa dragged me out. We were the last to get out of class since we were caught up in our conversation, so most of the halls were empty. When we got to the car park, there were only a few cars, including Drake's and his friends. I was glad it wasn't crowded, but at the same time, I was nervous and hesitated to meet the others. I had done all kinds of things just to hide from them and denied being Drake's mate in front of them. They might think of me as a selfish brat and might not like me. You're going to be okay, Elly. Don't worry. They are happy because it's you. So relax, Lisa said, surprising me. Wait, how did you know what I was thinking? You were squeezing my hand so tightly, and you're not walking. I'm pulling you with me. Duh, Lisa said dramatically. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know, I apologized, cursing myself. It's okay, honey. Relax, Lisa said, dragging me further. When they sensed our presence, their heads snapped towards us. I wanted to run back but held my ground. I bit my lip nervously and looked at each of them. Roy had a teasing smile on his face, and I really wished to wipe it off. Claire smiled lovingly, and it helped me relax a bit. Ian was looking between me and Lisa, while the other two watched me curiously. When my eyes stopped on Drake, I forgot everything else. My heart started to beat faster, and a smile crept onto my face. He smiled back and silently asked me to come to him. I walked near him, and he put his hand over my waist, pulling me towards him. Hi, he said in his deep voice. Hi, I whispered back, feeling my cheeks heat up. We broke from our trance when someone coughed suddenly. Everyone was looking at us with smiles on their faces, and I felt embarrassed. Finally! They noticed we're here too, Roy teased, and I glared at him. He laughed and hugged me, whispering in my ear, "Thank you, sis. I promise you he's a good guy, and he'll love you a lot." "I know," I whispered, hugging him back. "Congratulations to the new couple." Mike nodded at us, smiling. "Congratulations," Ian and Lucas said at the same time. "Thank you," I smiled back. "Quick question?" Mike looked at me, and I raised my eyebrows. I snickered. "Is it hard to believe that I beat you?" Others laughed while Roy smacked his head, and I laughed along with them too. I started to feel relaxed, and the more time I spent with them, the more comfortable I felt. I knew Roy and Drake loved seeing me this way from the way they looked at me from time to time. Before we got in the car, Ian, Mike, and Lucas apologized to me again for the past incident and asked me to give them a chance at friendship. It would take some time, but I nodded my head in agreement. After Drake dropped me at home, I went up to my room to clear my mind. So much had happened in one day, and I needed some time alone to wander in my thoughts. Last night was the longest night I'd ever had. I was thinking about Drake all night long and only fell asleep a few hours before sunrise. I thought I would be so tired and drained, but surprisingly, I felt good and energetic when I woke up. The moment I opened my eyes, the first thought that came to my mind was Drake, and I felt a blush rush to my cheeks while I grinned like an idiot. I never thought I would act like this because of Drake, my mate. I couldn't believe the thoughts I had for him and how possessive I felt towards him. Him being my mate and looking at him from a different view made me feel strange, but it gave me happiness, and I had this craving to be near him and feel his touch. Perks of ignoring the mate bond for a long time, my wolf mocked in my head. I huffed, shaking my head, not approving of my wolf's dramatic change after Drake's confession. She switched from a supportive wolf to an annoying wolf the second she felt Drake's sincerity and was always reminding me that I had to complete the mating sooner. I knew she missed our mate so much, but unlike other wolves, she didn't push me to do something I didn't like, out of the love she had for me. The moment she came into my life, she was able to read my memories and felt the exact emotions I felt during that time. So that was why she took my side, even though it hurt her to reject our mate. But after the talk with Drake, my wolf knew I had no grudge against him, and she pulled out memories to show me how he was when we were young. His kind heart, those eyes that twinkled with happiness, and his breathtaking smile that he put on every time he saw me. Those were the things that made me fall in love with him in the first place, and remembering that I would be seeing those every day for the rest of my life made me gush over him all over again. "And we'll be the only one to see them because he is ours," my wolf said possessively. And she was right. I could understand now what Lisa meant by saying it was hard not to complete the mate bond because of the wolves. They occupied our minds with thoughts about our mate and put very silly ideas into our heads every chance they got. But I had good control over my wolf as well as myself. I wouldn't be in this place today if I had let my emotions run everywhere without focusing on my priorities. I didn't want to love him just because of the bond. I always wanted to fall in love naturally, and I believed it would make our bond stronger. Since I had already forgiven him, I let my feelings towards him run freely, but trust was something he had to earn. So many thoughts ran through my mind as I got ready for school, and I didn't put on any perfume, even though I doubted Drake's self-control. As usual, the house was quiet since my parents had left early for work, and I smelled Drake's scent as soon as I came downstairs. I breathed it in and opened my front door, only to be pinned against it. Sparks erupted from my body as he pressed himself against mine. He kept me in place by holding my waist with both hands. Drake buried his head in the crook of my neck and inhaled my scent, making me blush. I gripped his shirt tightly as he placed small kisses along my neck. I was breathless and slowly giving in, but I managed to talk to him somehow. "Drake," I whispered, letting out shaky breaths. He stopped but bit my shoulder lightly before pulling away. I gasped, seeing his black eyes as they stared deep into my soul. Hesitantly, I took a step forward and placed a small kiss on his cheek. He slowly calmed down as his eyes returned to their original color. He smirked, making me sigh in relief. "I wasn't trying to mark you," he teased. I glared at him. "I know, and you promised," I reminded him. "Then why did you want to stop?" That caught me off guard, and I put my hands on my face to cover my blush. Because we're going to be late." I pushed him off and ran out of his hold. He chuckled and started to follow me after closing the door. He helped me settle in my seat and opened the back door to get something out. I looked at him, surprised, when he placed a bouquet of beautiful roses in my hands. He smiled and looked at me lovingly. "You smell like roses, beautiful. Really?" Wow, I smelled the roses. "And you smell like cedarwood mixed with clary." I looked at him, smiling. "It's very strong and intoxicating." "Yours too," he smiled. I blushed at that, and he leaned forward, making me sink into the seat. He kissed my cheeks, making me blush more, and my breath hitched when he kissed the corner of my mouth, grazing his lips on mine. My skin tingled, and I jumped in my seat when he closed my door loudly. He had a triumphant smile on his face, and I glared at him when he sat in the driver's seat. He chuckled and winked my way as I looked away to hide my smile. It had been 2 days since he last kissed me well. Actually teased me, but he had made no move after that, much to my dismay. I didn't want to make the first move, and I knew he was waiting for the right moment too. But I was getting excited and nervous at the same time when I thought about having my first kiss with Drake. As each day passed, I could see Lisa's and Roy's eyes looking for something on my neck, the mate mark, and every time they did, I blushed deep red. Drake always picked me up for school and dropped me back at home or the hospital, but I was careful not to let anyone see us together. I guessed I was still afraid of what people would say. "What's going on in your pretty head?" Drake waved his hand in front of my face. I pushed his hand away, smiling. "Nothing. Nothing." He raised his eyebrows. Nothing." "Ouch. That's disappointing. I thought you were thinking about me." Drake placed his hand on his chest dramatically, faking hurt. I laughed, shaking my head. Drake had made a habit of coming to the library during lunch because I refused to have lunch with his group in the cafeteria. I knew the moment I sat down with them, it would shock people, and the next day I would be the hottest topic. People would only be surprised if they learned about Drake and me. I didn't want that to happen, not yet. Drake understood me completely, and I was glad he didn't push it. "Would you like to come and hang out with us today after school?" Drake asked hopefully. "Sure, why not?" I smiled. "Great." So after school, we went to a place that had various games, including bowling and arcade games. The others spread out quickly to play their favorites while I stood there, not knowing what to do. It was my first time in a place like that, and I was glad I had Drake. He introduced me to some games, and it didn't take long for me to beat the high scores, making the others frown in defeat. I laughed, enjoying every bit of it, and I had to admit it was fun. Since I won most of the games, the others said that Drake must buy them dinner to lift their moods. Drake agreed instantly with a proud look on his face, and I rolled my eyes. And I glared at Roy, my one and only brother, who cast me aside so he could have a free dinner. Throughout the dinner, Drake held my hand in his, and I had no complaints, even though I struggled to eat with one hand. I felt safe and secure, happy, and at peace. I loved the way his hand felt in mine, with tiny tingles buzzing through our skin. The pull was so strong, and I moved towards him until there was no gap between our bodies. I leaned back, and he put his arm over my shoulder while his other hand moved to grab mine. I looked up and smiled when he placed a kiss on top of my head. "Elly!" Drake called out to me when I was about to get out of his car. We were in front of my house, and it was pretty late. I raised my eyebrows when he placed a gift box with a red rose on my lap. "What is this?" I questioned. "Open it." I narrowed my eyes, but he only chuckled. Without wasting any time, I unwrapped the box and gasped when I saw my favorite chocolate inside. "It's my favorite." I grinned. "Thank you." Drake scratched the back of his head. "I don't know how others do this, but this is me asking you to go on our first date." "What? Oh, when?" I mentally facepalmed. Drake chuckled. "Tomorrow. I'll pick you up here at 8 in the morning." "In the morning? Where are we going? I don't have time to prepare." "Oh my God," I panicked. Drake chuckled and grabbed my hand. "Relax, baby. Wear something comfortable. The place is a secret." He winked. My cheeks turned red, and I nodded, smiling. "Okay. I'll see you tomorrow then." Before I could get off, Drake pulled me towards him and kissed the corner of my lips. Again. I was surprised but groaned inwardly when he pulled away. I got off quickly before I could act on my hormones and waved him goodbye. I looked at myself in the mirror, adjusting my dark blue blouse and blue jeans. I let my hair down and put on some light makeup. He asked me to wear something comfortable, so I guessed this would be all right. When Drake mind-linked me that he had arrived, I ran downstairs after grabbing my purse and putting on my shoes. I decided to put on my knee-length gray cardigan since it was a bit chilly outside. I opened my front door only to meet the most handsome man with his breathtaking smile. I blushed and smiled happily when he gave me a bouquet of different colored roses. You have an obsession with roses, I said, smiling and admiring his masculine body, which made him more attractive no matter what clothes he wore. And we're matching again. I scowled at him playfully. He was wearing a dark blue button-up shirt with blue jeans, and he paired it with a gray hooded jacket. He grinned and looked at me intently. You look so beautiful, Elly, he whispered, his eyes darkening, and I can't wait till the day you become mine. My heart hammered in my chest uncontrollably, and I held my breath when he stepped closer, making me freeze on the spot. I looked into his dark eyes when he pulled me up against him. Drake buried his head in the crook of my neck, inhaling deeply, and placed a kiss on the spot where his mark would be. Shivers ran down my spine, and I bit back the moans that threatened to spill out of my lips when he placed small kisses along my neck. I was gripping his shirt tightly, and he stopped kissing when he reached my ear, only to whisper in his strong, deep voice. I don't have an obsession with roses, Elly, he breathed. I only have an obsession with the one who smells like them. He kissed my ear. He slowly brought his face to the front, grazing his nose along my cheek, allowing tiny sparks to spread through our skin. He touched my forehead with his, still closing his eyes, and took a deep breath. You're driving me crazy, baby. I know that for sure, he said, and placed a kiss on my forehead, smiling. I hugged him back, placing my head on his chest and listening to the rhythm of his heartbeat. It was music to my ears, and I breathed in his scent, letting myself relax into the warmth that radiated from his body. We stayed like that for a few more minutes, enjoying the comfortable silence, and then Drake pulled away, telling me that we had to go. Drake had been driving for nearly 15 minutes now, and I was sure we were still inside our borders. He took a road through the forest that I wasn't familiar with. When we reached our destination, I looked around but couldn't see anything other than the trees that surrounded us. I quirked my eyebrows at Drake, questioning, but he only chuckled. Wait here. Don't come out, was all he said. He opened the back door and started to take some things out. I heard him walk away after closing the door, and it took him nearly 10 minutes to come back. He opened my door and grabbed my hand, helping me get out. I gasped in surprise when he covered my eyes with a cloth. Drake, I mumbled nervously. What are you doing? It's a surprise, baby. Don't worry. I've got you. Just trust me, he said. He put one hand around my waist while the other grabbed my hand. He guided me through the forest, walking slowly. And after what felt like forever, we stopped. I heard the sound of water flowing and smelled different types of flowers. The sun was out, warming my skin, but the wind was a bit chilly, giving a soothing touch that relaxed my body. I took a deep breath in and let it out, smiling. The perfect weather. I can see you're already loving this, even though you can't see anything, Drake whispered. I had completely forgotten that I was not alone, and I could feel his smile. I nodded my head in agreement, and he removed the cloth. It took some time for my eyes to adjust to the light. But when I saw what was around me, only one sentence came out of my mouth. Oh my God. I chanted it over and over again while I looked around, trying to take everything in. We were in the middle of a field with different types of flowers in so many various colors. It was mid-spring, so even the trees were covered in flowers with some green leaves sticking out here and there. At the end of the field was a lake, its waves hitting the shore in a rhythm while the water glistened under the sunlight. Some birds flew over the lake, and a few dove into the water, only to come up with a fish in their beaks. Bees buzzed here and there while tiny, colorful butterflies fluttered around us, chasing each other. I felt like I was in an enchanted garden and didn't want to break out of the spell. Drake put his hand on my back and gave me a gentle push to move forward. We walked silently until we stopped in front of a giant tree near the lake. It was covered in flowers of every shade of pink, and we walked around it, only to be surprised again. Drake, I whispered, not knowing what to say. In front of me was a large blanket with a woven picnic basket in the middle of it. He had already laid out plates with cutlery and 2 glasses. Drake came up from behind and hugged me, placing his chin on my shoulder. Do you like it? He asked. I nodded my head, looking up. I love it. This is the best date ever, I grinned. He chuckled, and we sat down, taking food out of the basket. It had so many things, including sandwiches, sausage rolls, chicken drumsticks, and 2 salads with some fruits. We started to eat silently, enjoying the nature around us while sipping some orange juice he had brought. I was full after devouring those delicious foods, and I walked towards the lake with a slice of bread in my hand to feed the ducks I had just seen. I looked back and smiled at Drake, who was sitting comfortably with his back against the tree trunk, watching me. After feeding and watching the ducks, I walked back slowly, seeing that Drake had fallen asleep in the same position. I stood near him, admiring his features, and debated whether I should wake him up or not. Drake opened his eyes slowly and pulled my hand, making me fall onto his lap. I shrieked in surprise, and he smiled, putting his hands around my waist. "You're so beautiful, Elly," he whispered, caressing my cheek. My face heated up, and I looked away, avoiding his eyes. But his hand cupped my cheek and turned my face to look at him. I stared into his eyes, letting myself get lost in them, and I closed mine when his breath fanned my skin. Warm lips pressed against my own, and I kissed him back, drowning in the feeling that spread through my body like fire. Kissing was all I could think of, and my first kiss was way better than anything I had imagined. Her lips were sweet, and they pleased the hunger I had since the moment I first tasted them, even though it was just a pinch. It was my punishment for teasing her not once but twice, but I waited because I wanted our first kiss to be special and memorable, like this. Elly, my beautiful mate, was special, and she deserved the best of everything. As much as I loved the smile on those lips, I now liked the feeling they gave me when I kissed them mindlessly. She pressed herself to me, throwing her hands around my neck, and her soft moans only drove me crazy. She didn't mind the pressure I put on her hips as I tried to control myself from laying her down, because it was the last thread I held onto to not let my beast break out. Her creamy skin on her neck was tainted with red spots, while some had the color of purple before they healed. I bit her skin lightly and started to kiss her lips roughly when the thought of marking her made its way into my mind. By the time we pulled apart, both of us were breathless and drained. She put her head on my shoulder, trying to catch her breath, while I did the same. "Oh my God, when did I?" Elly pulled her legs from my sides and sat beside me with a flushed face. I chuckled and kissed her temple, putting my hand around her waist. "Get some sleep." "We have plenty of time," I said, pulling her closer to me. Elly placed her head on my chest, closing her eyes, and fell asleep after a few minutes. I moved her hair away and watched her beautiful face. She looked tired but peaceful at the same time. My eyes stopped at her lips, and a smile crept onto my face, remembering the heated kiss we shared a few minutes ago. No matter what, I wouldn't be able to let her go now. She was mine, and I felt complete with her by my side. I let out a deep sigh and tried to stay awake, but I failed as the nature around us lulled me into a peaceful sleep. I dropped Elly at her house after another little makeout session and headed back to the pack house. I went directly to the game room, where my friends hang out at this hour, and plopped on the sofa, tired. I felt eyes on me and looked at the others, confused. "What?" I asked. Roy groaned, but the others chuckled. "Looked like you had a good day. We can smell Elly all over you." Ian smirked. "What do you expect, Ian? She's my mate." Of course I would have her scent on me. "I was with her all day," I said, bored. "Yeah, but it's very, very strong today." "Like you did something other than holding hands, Alpha," Mike teased. My eyes widened, and I glanced at Roy, who was still looking away, not liking the way they talked about his sister. They were trying to tease me, but Roy was getting annoyed. Who would want to hear what his sister did with a boy? I chuckled. "Stop it, guys, before Roy can get one of you," I said. Their heads snapped towards Roy, and he growled lowly at them. They quickly looked away and started playing games while Roy got up, sighing. He sat beside me on the sofa and scrunched his nose. "Go and wash up. When I smell Elly on you, thousands of inappropriate things run through my head." "I don't want to think about what you did with my sister," he said, annoyed. The others burst out laughing but stopped when Roy threw a pillow at them. I smiled and put him in a headlock. "Get used to it, Roy. She is mine. And I'm not impatient like you." I mocked and released him. Roy had marked Claire on the very first day he found out she was his mate, and he did it without her consent. So every time he would say no to something like going out without him, Claire would remind him of it and try to have her way. "Yes, I admit that. You are better than me in that case. I don't know how you do it, you being an alpha, but I wanted to thank you for considering her feelings." Roy smiled. "We started on the wrong foot, Roy." I sighed. There were a few times that I almost marked her without her consent, and I must admit that it's getting harder. But when I think about losing her, I shook my head. "No, I have to earn her trust first. Otherwise, I would lose her forever." "I understand." Roy patted my back. "But you have to do it sooner." He leaned in. "Today, the Bella twins asked me whether you found your mate or not. When I asked why, they told me they heard some rumors about you hanging out with Elly in the library. They said it would be the end of the pack if you two are mates." "Why?" I growled. "Why would it be the end of the pack? Everyone loves Elly, and..." Drake, calm down. Roy squeezed my shoulder. Listen to me first. Okay, I nodded, taking deep breaths. The others had stopped playing games and watched me with a worried look. I could feel the anger boiling up, but I gestured for Roy to continue. As they said, Elly would have to make a choice, Drake. What choice? A choice between being a doctor and being the Luna. Either way, we're going to lose. I ran my hands through my hair in frustration. Why couldn't I just have some peace of mind? Everything was finally going in the right direction. And now this. Roy, are you even listening to yourself? I growled at him. A choice. Between what? Do you honestly think she would be happy as Luna if she couldn't do what she loves? I grabbed his collar. And tell me, why does she even have to choose? Ian pulled me away from Roy. Drake, just listen to him. Elly is his sister. Do you think he enjoys this? I growled again, but decided to hear him out first. Okay. I'm listening, I said. Roy sighed and ran a hand through his hair. Drake, I'm telling you what they told me, not what I want. But even if I don't want to accept it, there's some truth to it. So listen, he snapped. The Luna and the Pack Doctor are two very important roles. If one person holds both, it's a risk. The risk is, if we lose her. He paused, looking at me, then continued. We would lose both our Luna and our Pack Doctor at the same time. Especially in Elly's case, you know how much her being a doctor helps not just us, but all werewolves. If she chooses to be the Luna, well, miss her contributions in the medical field. And if she decides to give up being Luna, I gritted my teeth. That won't happen, I said firmly. No interruptions, Roy hissed, and I rolled my eyes. So, if she gives up being Luna, Roy said, his voice filled with defeat. You'll be weak without her, and our pack will be weak. In the worst-case scenario, she would have to leave the pack after you reject her, so she wouldn't be a threat to your chosen mate. We lose either way, Drake, but we can turn this around if the elders agree, and I believe they will since they like her so much. Tell your parents, Drake. Ian encouraged. They'll sort this out. Yes, I agree, Roy added. Don't wait for Elly to come around, and don't tell her about any of this. You know how she is. She'll panic and try to solve it all by herself. I was angry. I can't hide anything from her. I don't want to. She has a right to know. Roy put his hands on my shoulders. First, tell your parents and mine about you two being mates. They'll be shocked, but after that, you can talk about this issue, he said with a smile. Do it tomorrow night, and get her to agree to tell them. But tomorrow night is a celebration for your mom and Elly, Roy. I can't ruin that. They'll be thrilled, and do it before Elly gets the wrong idea, he sighed. I'm worried about the Bella twins. You know they're jealous of her. I don't need to remind you of what happened 2 years ago, he scowled. My eyes widened as fear crept into my mind. If they interfered before we sorted this out, it would be bad. Okay. I'll get her to agree, I said, earning smiles from the others. We had only been on our first date and shared our first kiss, but now I couldn't even enjoy those moments without thinking about what Roy said. But if I sorted this out tomorrow, I could enjoy my time with my beautiful mate. With that thought, I mind-linked Elly. Baby. Are you sleeping? It's only 8 o'clock, Drake. Of course not. Why? Can I see you now? She teased. Why? Miss me already? A lot. I sighed. Is everything all right? Her panicked voice came through the link. Yes, I lied. Let's go for a run. I want to see your wolf. Oh, okay. I'll see you in my backyard. With that, I ran outside, changing into my wolf. The night was beautiful, but I couldn't appreciate it. Even as the frosty wind flowed through my thick black fur, it didn't bring me the usual calm. All I wanted was to hold Elly, my love. She had become the one person who could bring me peace, and also the one who could make me miserable. The mate bond was not something to be taken lightly, especially for an alpha. Even before I reached her house, I smelled her intoxicating scent. She was in her wolf form, which made the scent stronger, causing my own wolf to howl with happiness. I arrived in her backyard and walked toward my beautiful mate. Just like Elly, her wolf was gorgeous. Her brown fur looked incredibly soft, and her green eyes glistened under the night sky. I nuzzled my head against her neck, enjoying the warmth and softness of her fur. She welcomed it, nuzzling her head against mine in return. You're so beautiful, love, I said through our mind link. She laughed. Thank you. I love your wolf too. It's so big and majestic. I laughed this time. Well, what do you expect? I'm an alpha wolf. I was sure she rolled her eyes at that, even though I couldn't see it. Her melodic laugh came through the link, and she playfully licked my face, inviting me for a run. I agreed and soon joined her, feeling relaxed as if I had no problems at all. I decided to let go of my worries for a while and just enjoy our time together. We ran freely that night, unaware of the misfortune that was waiting for us the next day. Something wasn't right. I felt it the moment Drake mind-linked me. But I didn't push him on it, and it seemed like he wanted to forget about it for the moment. We enjoyed the run. It's especially fun and exciting when you run with someone you cherish, and that's how I felt. I didn't want to ruin the moment by asking what was bothering him. We reached the lily pond in the middle of the forest and changed into our human forms behind some trees. I looked down at the big t-shirt I was wearing, which stopped mid-thigh. I suddenly felt awkward and nervous. I always wore these shirts after a run in the forest, but I was usually alone, so I didn't mind how short it was as long as it covered what was necessary. But tonight was different. I was with my mate, and letting him see me like this felt like a big deal. Unless you wanted something more to happen. I heard Drake walking toward the tree I was behind, and I hesitantly stepped out. He was a few feet away, wearing only shorts, and he watched me intently as I emerged. The air left my lungs as my back hit the tree, and before I could think, his warm lips were on mine, his body pressing against me and chasing away the chilly night air. His kiss was intense as he left no space between us, his hands roaming freely. I kissed him back but kept my senses, not wanting to take things any further than kissing. He kissed me like there was no tomorrow, as if he wanted to forget the world existed. I gently pushed him back, but it wasn't easy. He tried to kiss me again, but I stopped him. "What's wrong?" I asked, trying to read the emotions in his eyes. He didn't reply. Instead, he hugged me tightly, inhaling my scent as if he was determined never to let me go. "You're mine," he whispered. I pulled back to look into his eyes. "I'm yours and you're mine, whether you like it or not," I said. He cracked a smile, and I sighed in relief. I rested my head on his chest, breathing in his scent as he kissed the top of my head. After a few minutes, we pulled apart and sat down by the pond. Drake pulled me against him, hugging me from behind and resting his chin on my shoulder. I leaned back, relaxing into his embrace. I closed my eyes and listened to the sounds of the insects echoing through the quiet, peaceful night. Some were trying to attract mates, while others were just being noisy. They didn't seem to care about the alpha, though other animals kept their distance, sensing his wolf. It was a beautiful night, but my focus was on Drake, as I heard him sigh a few times. "Elly," he said. "Finally," I thought. "Yes, I want to talk to you about something." "Okay, I'm listening." I want to tell our parents about us, tomorrow night," he blurted out. "What?" I turned to look up at his face. "Why so suddenly?" he sighed. "There's no special reason. I just thought it would be good if we told them together tomorrow. Since I'm the future alpha, it's very important for them to know about my mate," he said, staring into my eyes. "I want to mark and mate you, Elly. But I'm not going to push you. I just want to tell our parents, not the whole pack." "So," I sighed. He was right. We should at least tell our parents. "Okay, let's do it," I said, which made him smile widely. "Thank you, baby. You don't know how worried I was." He kissed my forehead, and I pecked his cheek. "You worried for nothing," I said. We spent the rest of the time enjoying each other's company before we got up to leave. We said our goodbyes and decided to get a good night's sleep for the big day ahead. The party was to celebrate my mom and me for our contributions to medicine, and I really hoped everything would go well, even though our news was going to be a big shock to everyone. Tomorrow arrived much quicker than I expected, and the party was set to start in an hour. I did my makeup simply and let my hair fall down after curling the ends. Mom had picked out a red lace vintage evening dress with short lace sleeves that ended a few inches above my knees. It had a solid bodice that fit my upper body perfectly, flaring out from my waist. I paired it with black heels and wore black stud earrings to complete the look. I looked simple yet elegant, and I silently thanked my mom for her choice. "You look so beautiful, honey," my mom said, kissing my cheek. Dad didn't say anything, but he gave me a look of approval, his eyes twinkling with pride. I smiled at them and got into the car, looking forward to seeing everyone at the party, especially Drake. I never imagined that a day meant to be so happy and fun would turn into my biggest nightmare. The car pulled into the parking lot, and we got out, looking at the pack house, which was already filled with people. I adjusted my dress and followed my parents, greeting others who stopped to congratulate us. As if on cue, the Alpha and Luna came to the front door to welcome us, while I peeked at the handsome figure standing behind them. He was wearing a black button-up shirt and black pants, and he looked incredibly handsome. He smiled at me with so much love in his eyes, and my cheeks heated up, but I managed to smile back. "So beautiful," he said through the mind link. "I like your suit. You look so handsome in it." My cheeks felt even warmer. His laugh came through the link. "Thank you, love," he winked. "Elly, my favorite granddaughter," I yelped in surprise, hearing a voice behind me. The three men in front of me growled, and I turned around smiling. There was only one person who could make them react like that. "Professor Alaric," I giggled as he hugged me, smiling back. "How have you been, dear? You look beautiful as always," he winked. "I've been good. Thank you for asking," I smiled. "I didn't expect to see you today." "Well, clearly someone forgot to invite me," he said, raising an eyebrow at Alpha Anderson, but the Alpha ignored his comment. "And I wanted to introduce you to someone, Alistair," he called out to a young man who had his back to us. Hearing his name, he turned around and excused himself from a group of girls. He looked young, maybe 20 or so, and he was handsome enough to attract a group of girls wherever he went, but not as handsome as Drake, who looked like he had been sculpted by the gods themselves. And he wasn't as muscular as Drake either. Alistair came and stood next to Professor Alaric, his blue eyes twinkling as he looked at me. I could tell Alistair was a normal werewolf, but he had a calming aura, like a doctor would. "This is my grandson, Alistair, the one I told you about," the professor introduced him, and I was right. "This is Elly, the one you always talk about," Alistair teased, and I giggled. "Nice to meet you, Elly," he said with a smile, holding out his hand for a shake. But before I could even lift my hand, I was pulled behind two muscular men, my dad and the Alpha, who completely blocked me from Alistair's view. "Ryan! Anderson!" My mom and the Luna shouted at the same time. In a matter of seconds, someone pulled me inside, dragging me into an empty room. "Drake!" I shouted, my breath catching in my throat as he pushed me against the door. "Mine!" he growled, crashing his lips onto mine and kissing me roughly. I struggled against his hold and whimpered when he bit my bottom lip a few times, as if to stop me from moving. He pulled away, his pitch-black eyes boring into mine, sending shivers down my spine under his cold stare. I couldn't look away or speak. I just stood there, struggling to control my breathing, while he stood calmly yet dangerously, his hands still gripping my waist. "What in the world just happened?" "I would have ripped that guy's head off if my father hadn't stopped me," he spat. "And what were you thinking? Why did you smile like that?" "Like what?" I snapped back, pushing him. "Don't," he warned, grabbing my hands. I glared at him, but he didn't let go. Instead, he pushed me back against the door, nuzzling his face in my hair. After a few minutes, I felt him relax, and he let go of my hands, wrapping his arms around my back in a hug. He pulled me against him, and I instinctively wrapped my hands around his neck. "I'm sorry," he mumbled against my neck and sighed, pulling back to look at me. I think I overreacted. We didn't invite him, and I didn't expect to see him with his grandson. I remembered how he wanted to introduce you to him, so I felt uneasy. He sighed again, and I didn't like the way he looked at you, like you're precious. "So, that's why you dragged me in here in front of our parents?" I raised an eyebrow. He ran a hand through his hair. "You're not bearing my mark, Elly. My primal instincts took over when I saw him near you, and..." He looked away, avoiding my eyes. "My father and your father noticed. That's why they jumped in front of you before "What?" I asked in disbelief. "Well, that wasn't how I expected them to find out about us." "So now what?" I asked, annoyed. He let out a deep sigh. "My father wants to talk in the office. I'll come and get you later. Is that okay?" I nodded. "Okay." Drake muttered sorry again and kissed my head before leaving. I stayed in the room, trying to clear my head, and decided to leave when my mom mind-linked me to ask where I was. I sighed and opened the door, only to jump back, not expecting someone to be waiting for me. "Aunt Krista," I said, surprised. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Me too," she said, giving me a disgusted look. "And it's Christabella." "Ah, okay. Sorry," I muttered. No wonder she loved the name Bella, considering how she named her twin daughters. But what confused me was the look she gave me. "I don't need your sorry," she spat. "And let me make one thing clear for you," she huffed. "We'll never let you be the Luna of this pack, ever." I was stunned for a moment as so many questions flooded my mind, fear crawling in. How did she know? Who was the we she was talking about? Why were they against me being Luna? And most of all, what in the world was going on? I was confused, and tears pricked my eyes as so many emotions rushed through me. The fear of losing Drake was the strongest, and I didn't know why her threat made me feel so weak, even though I knew I had so many people on my side. The fear of losing your mate is the greatest fear we all have. The thought itself makes us feel weak, my wolf replied. I shook my head to clear my unnecessary thoughts. Nobody knew. So how? When the young alpha left the room smelling like you, I had to confirm if the rumor was true. Huh. She flipped her blonde hair and looked at me with her blue eyes, which held so much hatred. You were studying to be the pack doctor, and now what? The future Luna. Don't you think you're being too greedy? Two of the most important roles belonging to one person? Isn't your mother's famous reputation enough for your family? She huffed. Let's not forget about your father being the head of warriors, too, she spat. Everyone who knew our family knew Aunt Christabella very well. She was the queen bee in her school years, while my mom was the straight-A student who brought fame to her school through competitions and research. People admired my kind and humble mom more than the mean and bossy queen bee. To Aunt Krista, my mom was her enemy who stole the spotlight and fame that she thought rightfully belonged to her. She was one of the elders' daughters, and thought her mate would be someone with a high rank. She lost hope of being the Luna when Alpha Anderson found his mate, and again when Beta Thomas found his. But she still had hope for my father, who waited for his mate for almost 3 years. I heard she nearly went crazy when she found out her enemy was mated to her last hope, my father, the head warrior of the pack. It was just more proof that my mom was an obstacle to her happiness. But what shocked everyone was the guy she ended up finding as her mate, my uncle. He was my mother's older brother and my father's best friend. Talk about irony. Uncle Matt wasn't a warrior or a doctor or anyone famous. He was a funny guy with the biggest heart of all, and he loved us as much as his own family. Uncle Matt visited us on every occasion, while Aunt Krista stayed away, not wanting to see any of us, and we were grateful for that. She never had anything nice to say, only mean and hurtful words that she threw at us every chance she got. I was her second favorite person to hate, after my mother, of course. She hated that I was like my mom and thought I was stealing her daughter's rightful spot, just like my mother did to her. But when Bianca became the queen bee with the twins by her side, she lost some of her reasons to blame me. She couldn't blame Bianca either, since her grandfather was a much higher-ranking elder in the pack than the twins' grandfather. If she ever showed an emotion toward me, it was only hate. So when she gave me a disgusted look, I was confused, until she spat out the reason herself. I felt uneasy, knowing this was not going to end well. I clenched my hands and gritted my teeth as I saw a crowd gathering around us. And I did not do well in front of a crowd. Aunt Christabella, he is my mate, I whispered through gritted teeth, on the edge of breaking down. I hated arguments, especially being the center of attention with the wrong person, and I hated being in the same space as her. So, she glared at me, do you expect us to just let this go? She laughed sarcastically. I looked around, praying for Drake or anyone from my family to appear so I could get away from this looming trouble. I tried to mind-link Roy and Drake, but I couldn't get through, and I failed to mind-link anyone else because Aunt Krista interrupted me every time I tried. My eyes widened when I saw the Bella twins standing behind Aunt Krista with evil grins on their faces. Then I knew who the us she was talking about was, and I also knew this was just the beginning of my misery. Do you know, Mom? She played hide-and-seek with Drake. I choked on my own saliva and coughed furiously, not wanting to hear any more. But it wasn't enough for me to get away, and the next voice made me freeze on the spot, my head snapping in that direction. What's going on here? Alpha Anderson asked, annoyed to see Aunt Krista next to me. It was clear he didn't like her either. My eyes moved to the people standing behind him, the very people I had wished would appear a moment ago. But now, I wished they weren't here at all. Ah, Alpha, it's good that you're here, she said with a wicked smile and pointed at me. This girl, she doesn't deserve to be the Luna of this pack. I sat down in the chair behind my desk. I couldn't help but grin like an idiot while my wife started to blame me for how I acted in front of Professor Alaric and his grandson. I actually saved them, especially his grandson, from my son, who was on the verge of turning into his alpha wolf. I wouldn't be a good leader if I didn't know what was happening in my pack. and I wouldn't be a good father if I didn't know what was going on with my child. I knew Drake was having trouble with his mate. I saw his desperation, disappointment, and anger. Then it slowly turned into joy, happiness, and laughter. I didn't know exactly who his mate was. Rather, I was waiting for him to confirm it. I had caught Elly's scent on him a few times but didn't suspect anything because he was often in a group with Elly's friends and family. My dear child, my boy, was mated to Elly. I grabbed my wife's hand and made her sit on my lap. She instantly became quiet and blushed, looking at my face. She still wasn't used to it. My love! I laughed happily as tears pricked my eyes. Our son found his mate, I said. Amy was quiet for a few seconds before she stood up, squealing. She jumped up and down, clapping her hands like a child, happy tears pouring freely from her eyes. Who? She struggled to control her emotions, laughing and wiping away her tears. Who is my baby's girl, Andy? She finally asked. Elly. I was overwhelmed with happiness, and I could see Amy was about to tear up again after her initial shock. Oh my God, Andy! Oh my God! She screamed. Are you telling me that our prayers worked? Like the goddess really gave Elly to us as our daughter? In-law? I chuckled. You can drop the in-law part, love. She's our daughter now. I smiled. She smiled back genuinely. Oh, this is a day to remember, Andy. But how did you know? Did he tell you before me? Oh, that's not fair. Where is that boy now? Amy stopped her rant the moment I pulled her against me. Love, he didn't tell me. I just found out. Didn't you notice how he growled at Alistair when he was talking with Elly? His wolf was right on the surface, seeing another male near his mate. Oh, Amy's eyes widened in realization. So that's why you and Ryan jumped in between them? I nodded my head. So Ryan knew too? Nah, I guess he just found out like I did. One look at Drake. Any male with a mate can tell. I shrugged. And you can ask for yourself. Come in, Ryan, I said, as I sensed him even before he raised his hand to knock. Ryan came in with Mary following behind him, and they smiled as Amy hugged Mary, squealing. Oh, Mary, we're in-laws now. Can you believe it? Elly is Drake's mate. She's ours now. Mary returned the hug, smiling. I'm happy for my baby girl, Amy. I know Drake is a good boy and will be a good and caring mate, and am ecstatic because you two are her in-laws. I know how much you adore and love her, she added. Ryan nodded and looked at me. Did you ask Drake what happened? Because, as far as I knew, they didn't get along after that incident. I didn't, I said. I'll ask him to come. Son, I tried to mind-link him, but he had blocked everyone out. I tried again, with a little more force this time. Drake, come to my office. In 5 minutes, Dad. No, now, Drake. He sighed. Okay, I'll be there. Hez coming, I said, gesturing for them to sit down. We waited patiently until a knock on the door made our heads snap in that direction. Drake came in but was a little surprised to see the crowd inside. He greeted us as Roy entered the room, closing the door behind him. He was alone. Where was Elly? Where's Elly? Amy didn't waste any time asking. It would be best if we talked with you guys first, Roy said, piquing our interest. What were they up to? Drake scratched the back of his neck. Elly is my mate, he blurted out, making Roy chuckle beside him. He glared at Roy but couldn't hide the blush covering his face. We know that, son. Ryan smiled. We figured it out, but what we want to know is what happened between you two. It's been nearly 5 or 6 months since her birthday. Have you two been keeping it a secret or what? He asked. You have no idea, Dad. Roy smirked. Well, we don't have all day, but we can't push this aside either. So it would be better if you start now, I said impatiently, having asked Thomas to take care of the guests downstairs. The boys sat down, and Drake started telling us the story from the beginning to the end, with Roy reminding him of missing details, up to the point where Elly agreed to give him a chance. We listened silently, interrupting only to ask a question or two. And for once, I was grateful to the elders for enforcing the Alpha Law, which stopped Elly from rejecting my son. But my instinct told me they had something else to tell us, or something they needed advice on. So when Drake finished the story, I straightened my back and looked him in the eye. What's the other part you want to tell us? I know you're not finished. Drake and Roy looked at me, surprised, while the others looked puzzled. It's the Bella twins, Roy sighed. I was about to ask what he meant when the door burst open, revealing Ian at the same time Thomas mind-linked me. It's Elly. Christabella is here. I connected the dots and ran downstairs after Drake, stepping into the crowd and pushing him back. "What's going on here?" I asked, looking at poor Elly, not trying to hide my anger and dislike for Christabella. "Ah, Alpha, it's good that you're here." She smiled like she had already won and pointed at Elly. "This girl, she doesn't deserve to be the Luna of this pack. And who in the world are you to decide that?" I growled. The music died down, and people froze in their spots, stopping whatever they were doing. They gave their full attention to the Alpha, gathering around him like he was a beacon. An Alpha's voice held that much power, and his presence demanded attention. Aunt Krista visibly flinched and gulped, bowing her head. It took her a moment to collect herself, but her evil smile returned, replacing the fear she had shown. It didn't take me a second to realize what caused her sudden change as he spoke, walking through the crowd. "We decided that, Alpha Anderson," said Elder Morris, Aunt Christabella's father. The crowd parted to let him walk toward us, and he stood next to Aunt Krista, facing the Alpha and my family. I was a few feet away, facing all of them with nobody by my side. Drake growled lowly and tried to come to me, but another elder stepped in, blocking me from his view. I recognized him as Elder Warren, who saw my mom as an asset to bring allies and money to the pack, rather than as a valuable member who helped improve werewolves' lives. Drake growled again, but this time, Alpha Anderson looked over his shoulder and mind-linked him. The moment they finished, Drake stopped growling and settled for giving Elder Warren and Elder Morris a death glare. "What's going on?" Alpha Anderson questioned in a deadly voice. "When did you have time to decide? Even I only heard about them being mates today." Then he looked at Elder Warren. "I suggest you move aside so my son can see Elly. You know not to mess with an alpha wolf when it comes to his mate." His voice was calm, but anyone could feel the silent threat he sent toward the elders. I saw surprised and some happy faces in the crowd at the news, but no one said a word since their alpha was present and clearly angry. Elder Warren moved and stood beside me. Drake sighed in relief and sent me a sad smile. "I'm sorry, baby. I wanted to come and take you away, but my father thinks the elders are planning something, and he didn't want me to cause any trouble. He asked me to wait patiently to see what their plan is. Otherwise, this will turn out the way they want." I nodded my head. "It's okay. I understand." I was glad the Alpha was on my side, but who knew what the elders had planned, since they had already come to a decision before we had even told our own parents about us being mates. I should have known something big was going to happen when I saw Aunt Krista at the party, because she had never even considered attending an occasion thrown for us before. "We guessed, just like you did, Alpha. We just waited for confirmation." Elder Warren smirked. Then he looked at me with pure admiration in his eyes. A shiver ran down my spine, causing goosebumps to appear on my skin. He looked at me the way he would look at my mom as an asset, maybe a trophy to show off. Drake's growl made him instantly take his eyes off me, and I couldn't have been more grateful. My mom gave me a sad smile, but her eyes told me everything would be all right. I tried to think that way too, but my instinct told me this was not going to end well. "All right, but can you explain to me why she does deserve to be the Luna of this pack? If anything, I can't find a better Luna than her." Alpha Anderson spat. I should have been happy to hear those words, but seeing the smirk on Elder Morris' face, I shrank on the spot. If that was the case, then why didn't she accept her mate right away? I bit my lip and clenched my hands, closing my eyes for a second, wishing I could become invisible. But Elder Morris continued. "She played what? Hide and seek? With her own mate and Alpha? And she didn't even bother to come and talk to him for 4 to 5 months? Accurate. She went around with another boy even though she knew Drake was her mate. Yes, but that was to avoid getting caught. I wasn't in love with Josh, and she injured 2 of our best warriors. Again, to avoid getting caught, she let our future Alpha almost go crazy trying to find his mate. Guilt hit me so hard, and I looked at Drake's beautiful face. He had suffered so much because of me, and I hadn't even said sorry. She hated being Luna of this pack and his mate. Ask Josh. I searched the crowd for Josh, like everyone else, and found him with Bianca by his side. They both had shocked expressions on their faces, and Josh glared at Bianca. "I'm sorry, I didn't think they would use it against her," Bianca pleaded, looking at Josh. "I told the Bella twins it was our fault that Elly didn't want to be with Drake. I didn't mean anything else. I'm sorry, Elly." I nodded at her and gave her a small smile to show it was okay. But truly, it wasn't okay. I saw hurt and disappointment on the faces of others, especially on my family's, Alpha Anderson's, and finally, Drake's. I looked down and tried to control my shaky breaths. Do you think she's suitable to be a Luna just because she achieved something or invented a new medicine? She's weak and can't take any responsibilities. If she could, she would have tried to solve this problem instead of running away. What if Drake hadn't figured it out? She would have stayed hidden and gone to a medical college far away. I'm sure she wouldn't have returned if that had happened, Elder Morris said furiously. Whatever she did for her own benefit, not because she really cared about others. Ask her to give up her career and choose to be the Luna. She wouldn't accept it. Enough! A voice boomed through the house, making everyone go silent in an instant, and I stood still, shocked, because that voice, it belonged to none other than me. I still remembered the day we welcomed Elly into this world. A girl after 3 boys. Having a boy as a firstborn was normal, especially in high-ranking families, mainly because the boy would be the one to take over after his father stepped down. So it wasn't a surprise when Ryan, Thomas, and I all had boys as our firstborns. We expected that. Thomas and Lily, our beta female, had no luck after Ian, so they simply gave up on having a second child. But for us, it was a sad story. We lost our second baby through a miscarriage, and Amy refused to have another one, unable to forget the pain she went through. So when we all heard about Mary and Ryan having a healthy baby girl, we were ecstatic. We eagerly awaited her arrival, and I was over the moon when Ryan placed baby Elly in my arms. I can still remember how Amy cried, looking at her adorable face as she grasped Amy's finger and looked up at her with her beautiful green eyes. Elly brought happiness into our little world, and watching her grow made us happy. I held on to that happiness, and it made me greedy enough to ask and pray for the moon goddess to give us Elly as Drake's mate, so we could have her and love her as our own daughter. Forever. So imagine the pain and hatred I felt when they said she shouldn't be the Luna. I wanted to rip their heads off again and again as they blabbered that nonsense. Who did they think they were to let my years of prayers go down the drain? All hell would break loose if I let that happen, and I wouldn't let them win. I had to admit, I felt a bit disappointed when I heard she hated being Luna of this pack. But I could understand, knowing how she felt toward Drake after that incident. Poor boy. As much as I wanted to punch Morris in the face to stop him from talking, I couldn't. He was an elder of this pack since my father's time, and I couldn't treat him like that. An elder was an elder for a reason, and I had to respect that unless I had a reason to kick him out. While I was fuming with anger and searching for the right words to silence him, Elly's voice echoed through the pack house, making everyone fall silent instantly. We all turned our heads toward her, shocked, and I was sure she was surprised too. Elly took a deep breath before speaking up. What did you say, Elder Morris? She spat his name like venom. Choose between my career and being Luna? Can you tell me why I should do that? Why do I have to choose? She glared at him. I was born with this brain, Elder Morris, and the moon goddess paired me with Drake. Can you tell me why I have to choose when I was gifted by the goddess herself? She gritted her teeth. None of this would have happened if it weren't for your granddaughters. Elly shot a glare at the twins before looking back at Morris. They tried to humiliate me in front of the whole school, and I hated everyone involved, including Drake. But I gave him a chance and accepted him as my mate because he explained what really happened, she said, giving a faint smile to Drake while trying to control her emotions. I admit I did things that weren't acceptable, and I apologize for my actions. But I didn't love Josh. We were just helping each other. You can ask his friends, or the Alpha can command them to tell the truth. Elly looked at me, and everyone else did the same. That's not necessary. I know what happened, I said. Others nodded, accepting my word, except for the 3 in front of me. I wondered where the other elders were. We had 6 elders in our pack, including my father, the previous Alpha. But when I needed him most, he wasn't here. I wanted to know if they shared the same opinion as Morris and Warren. It would be a big problem if they did. But we can't let you have 2 important roles in the pack, dear. It's risky, Warren said in a sweet tone that made me want to throw up. He wanted Elly. But for what? And we decided it would be better if she became a doctor, not a Luna, Morris said. Huh? What? Drake's growl was interrupted by my father's voice. We didn't agree to that, Morris, my father said, stepping into the crowd. It was only you and Warren. We weren't informed, so how did you decide something like this? The other 3 elders stood behind my father, and I nodded at them. It's about time, Father. Where have you been all this time? I mind-linked. We knew they were plotting something behind our backs, but we were too late to know what it was. But don't worry, You have 4 elders on your side. He winked, and I rolled my eyes. Do you want the Luna to get hurt while attending to the injured? Please! Morris waved his hand, ignoring my father like he had said the most stupid thing. We would lose the Luna and the doctor at the same time. So, what do you suggest? Do you have someone suitable for the Luna position? My father asked. Father! Grandpa! Drake and I shouted at the same time. Yes! Morris grinned. Not 1, but 2. My granddaughters, Annabella and Isabella. Holy crap, Elly growled at him, but it was nothing compared to the growl Drake made. He tried to walk toward Morris, but I stopped him. Let them come near me, and I'll rip their heads off. Drake gritted out, glaring at the twins. Their smiles dropped, and fear took over. Christabella stepped in front of them, hiding her daughters behind her. Motherly instincts. Where's Matt? Ryan? I asked about his brother-in-law through the mind link. Saving penguins in Antarctica, he snickered. What? I raised an eyebrow. A wolf saving penguins? I'd be grateful if he could save us from his family. Ryan bit back a laugh. You know how he is. And I'm sure they chose today on purpose. I nodded at him. My father cleared his throat, getting our attention. Your granddaughters as Lunas. Not bad, Morris. You still aim high, my father mocked. But what about Elly? She has to leave the pack if Drake chooses another mate, and I don't think that will do any good. Elly's eyes widened. What? You don't need to worry about that, dear. Warren tried to comfort Elly. She can mate with my son and stay in the pack. If nobody says a word, the council wouldn't know. I growled at the same time Drake and Ryan did, so that was his plan. She is mine. Drake lunged at Warren, his wolf taking over, and I didn't stop him this time. He went too far and needed to be taught a lesson. Drake punched him, making Warren fall, and then jumped on him, hitting him several times. Thomas and Ryan tried to get Drake off Warren, but they didn't succeed. Drake, that's enough. I used an alpha command on his wolf before he could do more harm. Drake stopped and got up, walking toward a frightened Elly. He embraced her in a tight hug, inhaling her scent to calm his wolf down. What a mess. I turned my head toward the voice. Professor Alaric. I had completely forgotten about him. Warren got up from the floor with Morris' help, wiping his mouth. He glared at Drake, fuming with anger. I demand a punishment for this boy. He pointed at Drake. He may be the future alpha, but he doesn't have the right to treat me this way. I'm an elder after all. I gritted my teeth. But before I could reply, Professor Alaric beat me to it. Then why don't you behave like one? He asked. An elder's duty is to guide the pack and the alpha by giving advice and taking action when necessary. They do it for the benefit of the pack, not for their own personal gain. For once, I was glad he was here. That's what we're doing, Warren spat. There is no law that says a Luna can't work or must not hold another important role in the pack. This is a modern world, and there are Lunas who are doctors, just like Elly. Professor Alaric shrugged. But the elders in the pack can decide that, and this matter should not be your concern, Morris said this time. Professor Alaric laughed. But there are only 2 of you, and 4 elders are against you. And this does concern me, he said, looking at Warren. Didn't you try to get a position in the council a few weeks ago? What did you tell them? Warren's face paled. That Mary's daughter will be your daughter-in-law, and since she's going to do whatever you say, they'd better give you a position in the council? Did you plan to get rich and get whatever you want by putting werewolves' lives on the line? What? You thought Elly was your genie? He was furious. I felt my blood boiling too. His plan was bigger than I thought. Is that true? I asked Warren, even though I wanted to beat him to a pulp. Of course it's true, Professor Alaric said. Don't, you know I'm a council member. I came here specifically to investigate that. Since I know the truth now, I can report back. But if I were you, Anderson, he turned to me, I'd use this opportunity to remove them from their positions and banish them. If they stay, it will be a threat to the future Alpha and Luna. Since they tried to use their positions for their own personal gain, they are guilty. They were going against the law, and I'll be your witness if necessary. I blinked a few times, processing what he said. Yes, this was the perfect time. You have our votes too, Anderson, my father said. Banish them. No, you can't, Morris and Warren shouted. Christabella stepped back in fear, her daughters holding her hands. Elder Morris and Elder Warren. I used my alpha tone. And they stood straight. You used your position in the pack for your personal gain, and in doing so, you tried to destroy the future of our pack. You plotted against the Alpha family, and I consider you a threat to us and to the pack. I took a deep breath. So, taking those things into consideration, I hereby remove you from your positions and banish you and your families from our pack. And Christabella, I looked at her. Yes, Alpha? She bowed her head, shaking, and I continued. I'll forgive you this time for the sake of Matt and Mary, but if you do something like this again, I'm going to banish you too, along with your daughters. Understood? Yes, Alpha, thank you. She let out a breath of relief and ran out, dragging her daughters with her. The crowd cheered, finally seeing an end to the chaos and accepting their future Luna. 2 warriors came and took Morris and Warren out of our sight. They would be given some time to pack and would be under warrior inspection until they left the pack grounds. I let out a deep breath, trying to relax my mind. What a day it was, but I knew this wasn't over when my father spoke up, getting the crowd's attention once again. It's good, and we're happy that everything has settled down. But, he looked at Drake. Oh no, don't tell me. Drake, the future Alpha, needs to be punished for his violent actions against an elder, and we ask the Alpha's permission to proceed. I let out a breath of relief as I watched the warriors drag Elder Morris and Elder Warren out. Ah, they weren't elders anymore. At least I didn't have to worry about them again. Are you okay? Drake caressed my back gently. I looked up, narrowing my eyes. Is this the reason you wanted to tell our parents today? He looked away, avoiding my eyes. Not exactly, but yes. Why didn't you tell me? I'm sorry, I thought. He was interrupted by Elder Henry, Drake's grandfather, and the crowd went silent, giving him their full attention. It's good, and we're happy that everything has settled down. But, he looked at Drake, giving me an unsettling feeling. Drake must have felt it too, because he squeezed my hand tight. Drake, the future Alpha, needs to be punished for his violent actions against an elder, and we ask the Alpha's permission to proceed. The room filled with gasps, and everyone started to whisper, but all I could do was gape at Elder Henry. Was he serious? Father? Alpha Anderson spoke after a while. Is this necessary? I know he did something wrong, but Warren was at fault, and he's not an elder anymore. So? He shouldn't have behaved like that, Anderson. Believe me, I'm doing this for his own good. He must learn the consequences of his actions. He's the future Alpha, so he must learn that problems can't be solved through violence. But he was talking about my mate. Drake clenched his hands, gritting his teeth. If it wasn't for your father, you could have seriously hurt him. Elder Henry glared at Drake. When dealing with an enemy, it's important to keep your emotions under control, and you especially shouldn't act on them. Drake growled, muttering under his breath. Your punishment is to spend 3 days in the dungeon. What? Drake growled again. No! A pain shot through my heart. Not the dungeons. 5 days then, Elder Henry growled, and Alpha Anderson squeezed his eyes shut. If you behave, you'll come out in 3 days. If not, you'll stay there for a week without food and water. Before Drake could say anything, I squeezed his hand, silently pleading with him not to say anything. I could manage 3 days without seeing him, I hoped, but not a week. I accept my punishment. Drake sighed, giving up, and he cupped my face. Please stay safe, Elly, and don't go anywhere alone. I nodded my head. I'll be out in 3 days. I promise. I know. I squeezed his hands. I'll wait for you. We can go on another date after that. I smiled. Drake grinned and kissed my forehead. I'm looking forward to it. With that, he left with my father and Ian to the dungeon, where he was going to spend the next 3 days. I held back my tears, not wanting to cry in front of the whole pack. Mom and Luna Amy stayed by my side while Roy tried to comfort me, saying the dungeons weren't that bad. Alpha Anderson sent everyone away, as it wasn't a good time to celebrate their future Luna without the future Alpha by her side. I could tell he was worried about Drake, but he gave me an encouraging smile to say everything would be all right. I refused Lisa's and Claire's invitations to spend the night with them. All I wanted was to go home and spend some time alone. I had a lot to think about and sort out. Relationships weren't as simple as they seemed, and I had taken ours for granted. I was glad and proud of myself for giving Drake a chance, and today proved just how much Drake meant to me. Drake had become my life, and the thought of losing him nearly drove me crazy. The first day, I tried to be cheerful, making unfunny jokes and laughing at everything others said. They looked worried, but I couldn't care. At night, Mom came and told me it was okay to accept my feelings and, most importantly, to cry. So, the second day, I spent crying, sleeping, and crying myself to sleep. By the third day, I almost looked like a zombie. My skin was pale, and I had red, puffy eyes. I walked past people without acknowledging them and didn't bother to reply when they asked questions. Most of the time, I stared into empty space, trying not to think about Drake. But I knew it wasn't working when I felt tears and started to cry again. However, as the day passed and night came, I started to feel alive again, knowing that the next day I would be able to see Drake. So when Dad told me they had released Drake a few minutes ago, I cried out of happiness. I didn't expect him to be released today. Dad dropped me at the pack house and left, leaving me all alone in front of the building. I cringed as memories from 3 days ago started to crawl back into my mind. The night breeze blew, kissing my skin and waking me from my trance. Drake! I ran upstairs and stopped in front of his door. His scent was strong, and all I wanted to do was embrace him, but I hesitated to knock. I wanted to tell him I was sorry and how much I missed him, but I didn't know what to tell him first. The door opened suddenly, and a hand pulled me in. Sparks went all over my body as he embraced me in a tight hug. We started to kiss, and I poured all my emotions into it without holding back. Drake started to kiss my jaw, placing small kisses along my neck, and he settled on the spot where his mark would be. I wasn't going to stop him this time. I wanted to be marked as his. Drake pulled away and stared into my eyes. His eyes were pitch black, and I was sure mine looked the same. You're not stopping me? His voice held a bit of surprise. I don't want to. Are you sure? There's no turning back, Elly. You're going to be mine, and I won't let you go, no matter what. That wasn't an option in the first place, I smiled. All I know is that I don't want to leave your side, and I want to be yours, forever. Drake didn't reply but smiled, and he started to kiss me again. I kissed him back, letting myself drown in these emotions and freeing my heart from any worries. I stopped him when my bare back hit the mattress and whispered the words I had been waiting to say. I love you, Drake, I said, and kissed him. He smiled. And I love you more. Last night I had the best sleep ever. Spending 3 days in the dungeons without being able to see Elly was torture. It became worse when my wolf started nagging me about not marking our mate. If we had completed the mate bond, I would have been able to feel whether she was safe or not. Even though silver bars restricted our communication through the mind link, it was different for mated couples. They could feel each other through the bond. And at a time like this, I regretted not completing the mate bond sooner. After a few hours, I wanted to break out and run. But I stayed, remembering my grandfather's threat. Roy and Ian were the only people allowed to visit. So, when they came, I asked about Elly, and they comforted me, saying she was doing okay. I had to be satisfied with those words and waited patiently each day, counting the hours and then the minutes until I got out. They let me out on the night of the 3rd day, but I hesitated to visit Elly, thinking she might be sleeping. But when I got out of the washroom, I smelled her scent immediately, and it drove me crazy. Now I knew why mates were so special. And I was grateful to Elly for letting us complete the mate bond, even though I didn't expect it to happen so soon. Elly stirred in her sleep and snuggled against me. I moved her hair from her shoulders to see my mark. Beautiful, and she looked perfect. I grinned like an idiot but felt proud seeing my mark on her skin, 4 thick black lines like a wolf claw mark. The Alpha's mark. I was sure mine looked the same since she was the Luna now. Elly whimpered and pulled the sheet up to cover herself, feeling cold. I moved away an inch, and she moved toward me, not liking the cold feeling when she missed my warmth. I moved again and chuckled silently, watching her move toward me again. I sat up this time, and she groaned, annoyed when she didn't find me like before. Elly opened her eyes slowly and looked around until she met my eyes, which were already looking at her. Good morning, beautiful. I leaned in and kissed her soft lips. Hi. She blushed. Good morning. Had a good night's sleep? She stretched. Best sleep ever, I chuckled. I totally agree. I lay down, and Elly snuggled against me again. I can stay like this forever, she sighed. It's so comforting. I smiled. Yeah, I can feel how much you like it. You can feel? She quirked her eyebrows, confused. She looked so cute, the mate bond. I can feel your emotions through it. Oh, she blushed again upon remembering last night. I'm happy that we completed the mate bond. It killed me when I couldn't contact you during those 3 days. Roy told me you were doing okay, but your face says otherwise. I caressed her cheeks. Do I still have puffy eyes? She asked, touching around her eyes. You cried. She looked away. I'm sorry. I just missed you a lot, and I felt guilty for putting you through so much pain. I love you a lot, Drake, and am sorry for everything. Her voice cracked, and a lone tear escaped her eye. We cleared that misunderstanding, Elly. Please don't cry. I wiped away her tear. You didn't know the truth at that time. I'm glad that you listened to me and decided to give me a chance. I'm glad that I gave you a chance too. She smiled and caressed my face. And I'm glad we completed the bond. I feel like I found my missing piece, a beautiful one at that. She pinched my cheeks, giggling. Ah, I'm flattered. My mate can tease. I put my hand on my chest dramatically, and she giggled again. I hoped every morning would be as perfect as this. So, what's for breakfast? I'm getting hungry now. She smiled, patting her stomach. I don't know. We should find out. I got up and held out my hand to her. Ready for a delicious adventure, my Luna? She giggled and put her hand in mine. Yes, my Alpha. I'm always ready. After graduating from school, Elly started her studies at medical college under the guidance of Professor Alaric. Even though I was supposed to take over my pack at the age of 18, I waited 2 more years until Elly settled in with her studies and Luna duties. We took over the pack at the age of 20, with Ian and Roy by my side. Ian became the beta with Lisa as his beta female, and Roy took over the position of head of warriors with Claire by his side. Elly officially became Luna with me when she was 19, but didn't take over the responsibilities completely as she had to focus on her studies. My mom decided to carry on her Luna duties until Elly graduated and helped her understand her duties when necessary. A year after that, we had a son as our firstborn, and 2 years later, we had a daughter as our second child. Our lives turned upside down with 2 children and Elly's studies, but I was thankful since we had a lot of people to help us anytime. After Elly completed her studies, she took over a position as a doctor under her mom, Mary. She learned to balance her responsibilities as a doctor and a Luna. At first, it was hard, but later she became good at it. I still kept her gift, the leather journal with a wolf engraving, with me, but it was now filled with beautiful memories, and it was still the most precious gift to me. Elly and I still talked about our old days, remembering how she became my mysterious mate. We would laugh at our memories and think about how silly we were, but at the end, she would say only one thing. I'm glad that I gave you a chance. I'm glad you did too. And Elly, I love you more.